Dual mode engaged. Autopilot standing by. Turbo Duelists. Countdown initiated. Ready, set, duel.
Alright, good morning, guys. Good evening, good night. What up, Raúl? What up, Mohamed? Hola, Leo. Saludos desde México. Espero pronto ver tu receta definitiva de Synchron para el competitivo para poder ver yo que ajustes hacerle ya en México. No tardan los regionales. Suerte. Sí. I was testing it. Lo estaba te enseño la receta después del video. Okay. Okay. Let's watch the state of Synchro. Okay. Yeah, it's reaction time. We're gonna watch the state of Synchro. See how this is. Okay.
As of recently, I've seen a growing sentiment that makes it seem Synchros have become the second most hated mechanic in the game, at least according to the selection of comments on the linked video. It's baffling to me that so many people seem to have a disdain for this mechanic. I think this is likely a result of most modern Synchro design. However, when I held a poll on people's opinion of the mechanic, most seemed to still have a positive sentiment towards the mechanic. While the mechanic ran the gambit every mechanic does upon release, that gambit being changing the game, or as the stupid would say, ruining the game. Like how Xyz ruined the game with Utopia OTK? Remember that? Because I don't. But when people actually were receptive to the newly added mechanic, players appreciated what it offered to the game and grew to enjoy them in some respect. Of course,
Okay, let me make a poll real quick. This is hilarious. What the hell? Okay.
this mechanic wasn't always this despised. In fact, it was plenty beloved, especially in retrospect with legacy formats like Edison. Although, personally, I don't really care that much for Edison. Mostly because I feel like the Synchro pool is a little too shallow a sandbox for my liking. And that's something...
Yeah, well, yeah, because you... Like, if... Okay, so first off, the reason why newer players or modern players don't prefer to play retro formats because it's another learning curve, right? Why would I want to learn something that's not really relevant, which is being incentivized now, where YCS are actually holding events for those, right? For retro formats, for time wager formats. But I think for the modern players, like, it's like, oh god, like it took them long enough to learn the current game state, right? So like having to learn some of the principles of back then will be very different because you're so accustomed to like fast pace, like turn 1, turn 2 wins, whereas back then it's like you kind of had to like gradually get to a position where, okay, you accumulate setups or establish future setups to then capitalize on a particular interaction, right? Like after you torrential them, after you like mirror force them, or after, you know, stuff like that. But like when you go from a fast-paced format to a slower paced format where you kind of want things to end as like the moment you do a blowout, you want things to end right there and then, but that's not the case for retro formats. So that's where it can be a bit unsettling for like, because like they want to win, right? You want to win fast, and sometimes that can be unpleasant, like an unpleasant experience when you're so accustomed to it, because like you feel like it's out of your control, right? But it's just a different pace that you have to get accustomed to.
I'd actually like to draw attention to even now. The general synchro
Yugioh
card.
acceleration?
Despite being the oldest summoning mechanic added to the game, it's getting ever closer to being outnumbered by the newest one. This fact leaves the general synchro pool to feel underwhelming in the grander scheme of the game. Anytime I find myself in a scenario where I can synchro summon, there's really not that many options for good generic synchros for most levels, leaving synchros to feel relegated to specific synchro-focused archetypes rather than a general mechanic decks can have access to. And from the looks of what people said, that also seems to be a sentiment, with most people agreeing on the sentiment that synchros are worth playing in some capacity. What exactly has led to this reputational decay? Well, it's pretty simple, actually.
They're gonna mention the... what?
Synchro as a mechanic has had its identity stolen. The thief in question? Links. Synchros are just links, but with an abacus. The mechanic requires a tuner, a specific subtype, as well as a non-tuner on board, and the ability to do basic math, which for some people is a little too steep an ask. Links require almost any monster on the field, and have a far more vast and powerful card pool than synchros.
Well, if you think about it, right, it's the learning curve once again. It's having to have cards be able to have synergy with each other, right? But that requires effort and digging through old card pools and figuring out okay, like the first thing you think of when you think of like a combo, you think of the two factors, right? Their level, their type, and then you look at, okay, let's say for example, let's 4 and 4, just for the sake of the argument. 4 and 4. You need to look at all the level 8 synchros, right? And then what those could contribute to, right? And then you go down the rabbit hole. Then you go from, okay, so 2 4s, 2 and 8. That 8 has an effect that can search this. Okay, then you look at their application into what they can search. And then you look at the cards that they search, and then you have to consider what that card that you search does to extend your combo. So it's like a sequence that just unravels itself. But when you don't really intend to go down that path, it can be a bit like daunting. Like, oh man, that's okay. I'll just net deck something, and I'll just and that's where it gets this bad rap of complexities where you just rather than just not, and that's where it's like but for us, we actually enjoy that type of stuff because we want to we want to innovate a particular line that's maybe might have been pre-existing, but because they lack the insight of a particular old card, you're like, oh shit, didn't know, did you get to this, and then you add it, and then you make the sequence totally different, and you construct a completely different idea off of it. But that's not for everyone. That's why Tenpai exists. That's why what's another Sword Soul exists. It's very, very simplistic in the way they can function. You don't require to do these niche things, right? Of course, there is to an extent, but the capacity where one deck can do substantially something different, like the pivot points. That's where it differs, right? Because that means it just requires a lot of recall, I guess, in that sense, right? Having to learn combos and understand combos compared to memorizing 3 compared to memorizing 6, right? That's double the amount of things you have to remember, and that can be daunting for people. And I can see how it can
so
be like a
any
bit like, oh,
scenario
I
where
don't really
you
want
could
to
make
learn.
a
You know?
synchro, you could very well just make a link instead. When I ask people
What up, Austin? What up, Blue
comes
Vest?
to their mind when they have two monsters on the field, by an overwhelming majority, links are the extra deck
Yeah.
mechanic that people think of when reaching into the
Yeah, because if you think about it, right? First it was okay. So if first it was monster effects, right? But then they're like, okay, well now there's fusions, right? And then you needed a specific, similar to Synchro. You needed specific materials to make that fusion, but that wasn't efficient because you needed ways to get to those particular materials. So then that's made synchros. Now you similar case where you need a tuner, you need a particular level to match to make that synchro. And then we had exceeds, which made it a little bit more simpler because all you had to do is just match the levels. And then what's next? Links. All you need is any generic monster. Yeah, so it's a gradual progression of making it simpler and simpler and simpler. But it feels like it's a progression in this. If you think about it, it's a progression to finalize the game itself, right? Because they're trying to make it better, right? That's the whole point, making it better. And it feels like these mechanics were implemented to do that, right? Because how many changes have they done already? Like they took back the pendulum thing, where they trialed and errored it, right? Like they use up your spawn trap card zones, okay. Then they changed it to where before they didn't, right? And then the links, we were bound, but who remembers Master Rule 4, bro? Master Rule 4, fucking hell, that was fucking awful. You had to summon.
Player here.
Huh?
Hello, Crystron player here.
Oh my god, bro. Bro, yeah, like who remembers that? Like, I think it's the implementation of trying to finish up the game, right? But we're not viewing it that way. We're just viewing it. Oh, we have a new summon mechanic. But if you think about it, it's just them trying to progress the game in a direction where it's efficient, it's simplistic enough to garner attention, to allow people to really like understand it without having to like know all these things, right? Because that'll be the next step of you initiating your journey into the game. Because let's say let's say Tenpai, for example. This is just Tenpai gets your attention because this is the most simplest deck. It's very simple. There's some niche things you can do, but for the most part, it's very simplistic. Just go second, nuke, attack the game. Now they have your attention. Now the game has your attention. Tenpai is boring for you. It gets boring. Now you're like looking at other complexities because you kind of have the fundamentals down, kind of how to play the game, but you've moved past it. You've outgrown that now. Now you go to a more complex deck, right? And then you have like other decks that are a bit more higher sequence, right? And that's just, I guess that's the progression of a player coming to the game. So yeah, I guess that's what it is basically.
Deck.
What up,
It's
Tony?
pretty obvious.
Hey, what up,
why.
Chaos?
And the current design space for links makes them an infinitely better use of your resources.
Hopefully that made sense. Because in my mind, it's making sense. But if it's not making sense, let me know so I can try to like articulate it better.
This wasn't the case when Exceed.
It made sense. It's just
They
mostly
had
like the
clear
difference between a
mechanical
player that
distinctions
has like you said, low sequence decks, which doesn't take a ton of effort to put up, versus like the player that loves long combos and learning how to like pivot when they're interacting with and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
actually really comes down to what type of player you are. So
Yeah. It also comes down to the capacity that you are willing to give in that effort, right? Because once you've endured hardship, which in this case is learning something, right? Learning something, because at first it's like the steps, right? You want to learn something new, but you're a bit reluctant, so you put it off a bit. But then fuck it, let's do it. Then one day you just do it, you learn it, and then since you've learned it, and then it's a constant process of learning because we get new cards every single time, like every set. So keeping that in mind, you're aware of what it takes to study cards and learn cards, right? And that's a lot of memory that you have to allocate to future cards, right? And most people get uncomfortable with that because they're like, that's what I'm saying. Like some people end up quitting because of the fact that my deck's not good anymore because like now it's like I learned it to the fullest extent, but now I have to move on to a new deck, and it's like I have to learn that all over again. Like, and then like, I'm gonna take a break. Stuff this, And yeah, it's just I feel like that's more of the issue than just simply saying, "Oh, a mechanic ruined the game." I think it's more so just learning. You know what I mean? And the capacity in which they're capable of doing so. Because it can be exhausting, like having to like always learn. But that's the game though. That's the point. But once you come to terms with that, it's fine because you're like, okay, it's gonna take a few hours to learn this. It's gonna take a few days to fully understand this, and then I should be fine. Because in the long run, that insight gets implanted in your memory bank now. So now you know, and then for future sets, you can match the old cards with the newer cards. Because someone that doesn't endure the hardship of learning all these old cards to implement them to the future sets, that will hinder you in deck building, right? Which is something I've experienced. I'm pretty sure some of you experienced as well, where you just weren't aware of a card, and then it could have elevated the newer sets, right? Because like that's the cool thing about the game, because you could use older sets and mesh them with the newer sets, which is pretty cool.
Right. I do kind of want to go back to your point about like how sometimes people aren't necessarily innovating enough because like, oh, my deck's like not good now because of this format. Like going to that point, I guess the exception is MR4, like where like, oh, that killed like almost every single mechanic to a different way of how it's played. So I get that, but now that we're not bound by that anymore, my response to people who are like, oh, I can't play my favorite deck because this format or whatever, I'd say like you shouldn't restrict yourself to playing only one deck, or that's the only reason why you're playing the game. Like that's not a healthy mindset either. Like even us who have played like either Synchron or a form of Synchro for like that's what at least you're known for, Leo, and like I more or less have been known for. Like that doesn't mean that you should stick to that the whole time. Like look at how many times you've either played Salad, you've played Paleozoic, you've played Crystron, you've played Altergeist.
Yeah.
Like, and that has made you a better player because you understand the interactions of all those different decks.
Yeah.
And if I decided to just play Synchron through my whole life instead of like bridging out into like Crystron or Salad or what else do I play? Orcust or stuff like that, then I would not be as good a player as I am now. And I say good, but I'd be worse off than what I am right now.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the point. Like you want to expand your interest. Like, of course, we have the commonality of synchro decks, like Synchron. Like that's something that's let's establish that we're a big fan of synchrons in general. But you don't how do I say it? Don't restrict yourself to only doing that, which is what I've been trying to do. Like, even though I'm like Synchron is like one of my favorite decks for sure, right? Because it got me some of the success early on and allowed me to do this basically because it got a lot of you guys' attention because it's a fan favorite, right? But also you have to try to implement that I guess your favorite. You try to implement your favorite things wherever you can, which is what I've been trying to do this past few years. Right? That's the whole point. But when you can't, it's okay. It's okay because you either like the game for what it is or you like something in particular, right? And I like the game for what it is. That's why I'm not too fussed about like playing other things like as Nick mentioned, like playing Ultra Guys, playing Salad, playing Dinos, playing Crystron, playing like all the decks that we played in the past. Because it just robs you of experiences that you might like. What if you end up liking something else more? You know what I mean? And that's it's not a bad thing. It just means that you just like something more. You still have this appreciation for synchros, but it'll elevate your gameplay, right? Because that's at the end goal. That's what you want to do. You want to elevate your deck building skills. You want to elevate your technical gameplay. You want to develop your insight based on the entirety of the meta from the past. So all these things you want to elevate, right? But if you're stuck only playing one particular thing, you're gonna lack all the insight that is out there, right? Which is something that I used to do in the past, where I would like play the meta decks to understand them, right? I would play them to learn where to stop them, where's the weak point. Okay, well, since my deck doesn't really lose to this particular interaction, I don't really care about that. But I care about this, so I need to make sure I take care of that. Where opposed to other decks are more concerned about an Omni compared to a spot removal, right? Because that's how you deck build. Like if your deck is resilient enough to play around a spot removal compared to an Omni, then you will have to view it differently, right? But that comes to testing and understanding those decks, right? Like for example, I've used this in the past where we use Adventure Synchron. Like that token needs to stay there. Like if something happens to that token, you're already behind. So, for example, versus Snake Eye, the way they remove the token is SP banish or Princess Pop, right? That's how they get rid of it. So you care more so about those things than you do about like maybe an Imperm, maybe an Appaloosa, right? Because you can bounce the Appaloosa, right? You can bounce with the Draco back, so you don't really care about Appaloosa, but you care about the pop and the removal. So that's where you have to approach it. Like it's very different, yeah. But yeah, it just yeah. What up, Tyler? What up, Tony? What up, Brody? Let me just read
I
it.
love that little caption of the video. It says "stolen identity."
Yeah. Black Runes did have a huge spike in terms of speed, but I think Dragon Rulers is what really changed the game, in my opinion. I don't think I got to play Dragon Rulers all too much on that format. I think I played a few games. But not necessarily like played that format. They just need to make synchro archetypes that lets you synchro with spells or from the hand. I mean, the closest thing to that is gonna be Necroid Synchro. That's funny. What's up, Leo? Yo, did you peep Clockwork Knight? Yeah, we looked at it on the Discord. It's an interesting card. But does Clockwork prevent your cards from being destroyed once, or am I thinking about something else? I think I might be thinking of something else. What up, Edgar? Best thing about huh?
I was just gonna say, Rap was saying in the chat that like he wasn't thinking that the spell card Clockwork Knight, that spell card continuous spell Clockwork Knight was gonna be too good in Kristan. I really like disagreed to dismiss it so quickly without doing any actual testing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we're gonna have to test that for sure. At the post, Synchros were almost killed by Lynx, the Master of. I know, bro. They almost got freaking demolished. I finally got my alt art tunings, and they are great. Yeah, that's awesome. They look so cool. Yeah, fair enough. Give us Grand Fusion for Synchro.
We do got to give credit to Master Rule 4 though, because honestly, if Master Rule 4 had never existed for the time that we had it, Junk Speeder probably would have never gotten printed as a card.
Well, no, but it was printed, right? It was printed.
Yeah, I agree, but my point is that it was printed during MR4. I don't think it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that because we wouldn't be restricted by the zones, that it would be better than it would. I guess, yeah. Can you imagine Speeder and Master of 4 like without the restriction of bound by links?
Oh,
yeah, maybe that would be pretty hectic if you think about it. Now I think about it, yeah, that'd be pretty wild. Because at the time we still had Quick Draw Level Eater, so that would be freaking busted. Holy shit, that'd be so good.
Was Speeder was announced after Hulk of Fibrax, right? I think it was released at a TCG before Hulk, but it was announced as a card afterwards, right?
I think it was, because I remember when they teased Hulk, we were like, "What the hell? What the hell?" And then we're like, "Oh, it's gonna be another Hulk," because we thought it was gonna be like a Synchron support before they announced Hulk, right? I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, both that and Junk Connector. We thought that the Connector was going to be better,
we thought Connector was going to be pretty good, but it wasn't. It was just so bad. All right, let's continue with this thing.
Synchro's identity. They required monsters of the same level. This rarely left chances where one invalidated the existence of the other, and the scenario overlap between making a rank 4 or a Synchro 8 still had meaningful decision-making between choosing. Xyz even utilized the overlay materials to establish a legitimate functional difference between using the materials as cost for effects or the rare instances of gaining additional
utility.
effects based on the materials attached. It made sure the mechanic was distinct from Synchro in the game's ecosystem, even past the advent of links. Since Master Rule 4 was put to pasture, the fact that 99% of links had zero consideration for actually linking, co-linking, or utilizing combined link ratings for their effects makes it clear links have no functional distinction between Synchros. And when it's the better, more easily accessible mechanic, it's the one that runs away with the identity. I mean,
Yeah, that's the progression. Can you imagine if links were able to put themselves in defense, being able to manipulate the level and the zones available to you? Can you imagine that? That'd be pretty crazy. Like let's say you put the defense and it'll switch the orientation of the zones that it unlocks. That'd be crazy.
Yeah,
it doesn't get any
I think
more.
the reason why that wasn't implemented initially was the whole point of quote unquote slowing the game down for a bit to, I guess, basically force a new mechanic. But I agree that would actually be that would introduce a lot more skillful gameplay, I'd say.
Yeah, because there's some more things to anticipate, depending on what you're trying to do. But I think for the most part, I think it was because they didn't. Wasn't Book of Moon like a very prevalent card at the time, and it would just kill the link mechanic? Because why would you link? You just book it and then you just, you know what I mean?
Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse started seeing some relevance for sure when that stuff was going on. That was like going into it was partially that, but like especially in like year 2 of Links, that's when you started seeing like the Dark Warrior and the Goki stuff with Firewall Dragon.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, that was when the Thunder Dragon support was released. So the Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse stuff was a lot more prevalent then.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was crazy.
The nose than Halka Fibrax. Who would have thought designing an entire card type around a single arbitrary restriction wouldn't age so well in a world where you remove that restriction? So what was Synchro's response to this stolen identity?
I'm going to steal it back.
This has led to a growing negative perception towards the mechanic. Long forgotten the era of summoning Stardust Dragon.
It was
Gone are the
2018?
days of Crystal
He's
Wing
had that
gaming.
yeah.
Now we have this.
What up, buddy? What up,
Time to
Tactical?
execute the combo.
What up, Pats? What up, Collector Invest? Oh, God. I mean, this sounds pretty nutty.
I'm just built different.
What the fuck? Yeah, so this is when most people, yeah.
There really is no better example of what links have done to this mechanic's identity than Synchron. You're locked into Synchro summoning at the expense of all the extension the deck is capable of, because if you weren't, you'd be doing something far more heinous. Which is really saying something when you see actual Synchron gameplay.
Yeah.
Synchron, TG, and Blackwing, iconic 5D's era archetypes, are now just 50-minute combo fests. Even Battle Wasp is starting to shape up in this playstyle, likely a side effect of being a clone of Blackwing. RDA, while less heinous in gameplay, still has a relatively drawn-out process.
Yeah, but that's the
to go
paradox,
through.
though, of having to be this way, right? That's the progression. Otherwise, why would you waste your time in playing these decks? They have to keep up in some way, right? Whether regarding their consistency, their efficiency, or their ceiling. Because if you think about it, like if you're constantly trying to shift the dynamic of what the meta is at the current time, you have to consider what the best deck is currently doing, right? So it's like a natural progression of the newer cards have to do something better, right? I've mentioned this time and time again where it's quite simplistic if you think about it. Why would you play or buy the new product when the old product is just as good, right? So like, okay, I just keep playing this. So the need to do something drastic and incrementally changing or making something better and better power creep is only inevitable, right? It's inevitable. And I think they're trying to mitigate that by having these restrictions like speeder only synchro, RDA only dark, Blackwing same thing, TG same thing, you know, because otherwise it'll just be too crazy. But then you think about it, wait a second, what's the agenda then? Because like, why are they saying? You know, it's like, are they making these, like, I guess, decks abide by a certain rule, or is it just like unpredicted anticipation where they didn't think this mechanic or this deck would be as good as it is, right? That's generally what it means. I mean, I think that's what it is. Most of the time, if they were aware of what a deck was going to be capable of, I'm not sure if they would do or give those type of effects to those particular archetypes, right? Because it's just basically, okay, well, this deck's this good, so let's make this do a little bit better. But they wouldn't expect it to be exponentially that much better. And that's where they have to kind of like pivot and be like, okay, well, shit, hang on, this is a little too good. So now we gotta, okay, well, what do we do? I'm trying to figure it out. Like, oh, fuck, this is, okay, give us, we'll leave them have another format, and it should be okay. And then eventually they'll just, stuff it. We can't really solve this. We'll make something a little bit better, but we have to demolish this meta deck. So, yeah.
Right. Well, I think
So
there
much
was this is years ago now, but back like even prior to Links, Team APS made a video about like how many like generic engines that there were in the game, like bringing up cards like Speedroid Terratop, Brilliant Fusion, That Grass Looks Greener, like a bunch of random cards that like were super generic and you could throw into a lot of different decks for creativity. And it brings up the question, like, is it healthy to have so many generic engines be able to get thrown into any deck, and does it limit creativity?
Yeah.
So I guess what Konami's been trying to do lately, which I do respect them for, is like putting certain restrictions on some decks. Now some are too extreme, like as a Crystron player, the early Crystrons with like having locked into machine synchros when you use the normal effects of like Smyger or Thyster and all them, versus the new support, they're just locking you into machines for the extra deck, which that's a lot easier to work around because then it like incorporates stuff like the Xyz monsters like Cyber Dragon Infinity. It incorporates Link monsters you can use as well. That's a lot, like, sure, it's still a restriction and it still like limits you from being able to use other things, but it's not so hurtful to the deck to the point where you can't like do some decent plays now.
Yeah.
So they're trying to find the right balance.
Yeah. And I think that's quite difficult to do. And I think some of the players, because for the most part, we don't know what their intentions are. We don't know, right? From a general or a generic perspective, we can say that, okay, well, they're just running money. That's obvious. That's obvious for business. You want to make profits. So how do you do that, right? You have to make them want to play the newer cards, right? But in the way where you're allowed to use older sets, kind of makes it a little bit complex in the way they can design the cards, because they have to consider the entirety of the card pool, right? And that will only be considered once someone builds a deck, right? Because then it might shift the dynamic of the meta, right? Because like maybe they weren't considering a particular card to mesh well together, right? Because that's trial and error. You have to see if it works or not, right? So until that happens, then it's like, oh shit, what the hell did we do? I feel like there's a lot of that goes around that's happened in the past, where
and the biggest example of that I can think of is the Brains Pack, and talking about how many of the Link monsters, like the questions were starting to come up for certain ones, like for Halka-Vibrax or for Electromite or for I feel like there's one more that's specific that's I'm forgetting, or so like these ones that have so much generic access to so many different cards, like to the point that it was limiting the possibility of future card designs because of how strong these ones and easy it is to tutor out specific cards. Like, yeah, it would limit like the type of tuners that Konami could print. It would limit the type of warriors that Konami could print for Isolde. It limits the type of pendulum cards you could print. It's like Yeah.
Because like, what we wouldn't do to just get a little bit of insight in how their thought process is towards designing a card? Because what if they already have like a timeline, right? Of cards that are already okay. Well, this is going to be released. This, because they've laid it out already. They're already anticipating for the next few years of what to do, right? Because that means that wait a second, they're not dumb. They're actually planning it out, and they're releasing these cards in a manner where it's what I mentioned. I think a few months ago, how I said that they're aware that some of us are not happy with the current format, but they've gauged enough to where they know that okay, well, we have this player base guaranteed because they're loyal customers, they're loyal players, so we're always going to have that threshold, and that's sufficient enough to keep us afloat. So we'll let the format play out, and then once it's time, we'll release this set, and I guess just revamp the format or revamp the current meta, right? Because that's quite smart if you think about it. You know, that's like pretty crazy to anticipate that far in advance. To think of, okay, well, we don't know that they have this in line, but that's what I'm saying. If we had a bit of insight into what they're planning, it would put most people at ease. But then that would be bad for business, because then the consumer will anticipate, and that's kind of something that they don't want. I think they don't want us to anticipate, right? Because like, how many buyouts are like hit or miss, right? And
yeah, well, even more beyond that, I'd be curious, like, on the thought process thing, because all the cards, with the exception of like TCG exclusives and stuff, they all start in Japan. I'd be curious if Japan thinks about like their other. Is it just their format they start with, and they don't think about the TCG and the other formats, or do they also take those other ones into consideration when they're designing new cards?
I think that's where innovation is such a crucial part. I think because when people come up with these rogue decks, right? Something that they didn't really anticipate, because like who knows if they like if their staff or anyone at Konami can do that, like go and deck build and then come up with a strategy. Because like, I'm not sure if they, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're maybe they did that, I'm not sure. But can you imagine if no one innovated? Meaning, like, let's say an older card that matches with the modern card, and then have those function together, something that no one really expected, and then that will then help create a new mechanic or a new card, right? I don't know. I would just like to see the thought process behind them creating cards, because like how did they consider it? Like, what would it be like the make it because if they explain to the player base of how things are created, maybe I think deck building would be a lot more easier, right? Because you know the intent of things. So because at a fundamental level, it's kind of hard to pinpoint where to start, because we all know. Okay, so for example, like we all know ratios, right? Like we know, okay, if it's a good card, you kind of play it at 3. If it's a search card, depending on how important or how crucial it is, then you kind of have to play it at 1 or 2. If you like, if it affects it being drawn and not in the deck itself, then you kind of have to, like, like those are simple fundamentals. But like, to find out like the actual intent of why things are at a certain ratio, right? Or what equates something to being good, right? Because it's all subjective, right? Like if you have like 10 starters in the deck, and then another deck has 15 starters in the deck, and then the third deck has 20 starters in the deck, like, okay, well, the one with less starters is still going to be better than the one with 20 starters, because of whether it be the resilience of let's say the deck that has 10 starters has an attrition style of starter, where like if they remove it, if they pop it, then it floats, right? And then you generate an attrition style. Or where you have the 20 starter deck, where it's like it's very vulnerable to like spot removal, but it has extenders to facilitate those starters. You know what I'm saying? Like like I think understanding the decks at that level would help a lot of people deck build a bit better, I think. But I don't know if they would ever like explain to the player base or the Yu-Gi-Oh players, oh how do we build, how do we make cards like that? 'Cause that'd be crazy. I would really like that though.
Right. And I do refuse to believe that there's no one testing at Konami in regards to like deck building and stuff like that for these scenarios.
Yeah.
Now, is it as deep as the player base? Probably not. But the reason why I refuse to believe that like that no one's doing is because I remember back in like when links were first getting introduced and it was being showcased at like, I don't know if it was like, I think it was Nationals of the US.
Yeah.
The two hosts were like showcasing, I think it was a World Chalice match versus Goki or something. I can't remember what the other link deck was, but he was showing like different cards that are being used in like the Agent of Creation Venus, and it was like the agent card that helped like because he could summon the mystical shine balls.
Yeah.
And it helped make a lot of the World Chalice stuff. And like that shows like some innovation there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if it's like the innovation that's coming from Japan and it just translates over to America or vice versa.
Yeah.
That's a whole different story.
Yeah. Okay, let's go.
If you want my
These
opinion,
decks functionally
I think
do what most
Link were the worst choice Yu-Gi-Oh could have made for the card game.
Oh, what up, Nick? What? Wait, what? You don't like links?
No.
What the fuck?
Everything fundamentally makes sense with every previous mechanic. Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz, they all fundamentally make sense.
But it's a progression, right?
Yeah, any two cards rather than fusions, two specific monsters.
Yeah,
Synchro,
but
different types of monsters.
No, but with that approach, it's a bit more complex for like a newer player to grasp, right? Because they know, okay, I need to find cards that can efficiently get me these two materials to make this fusion or whatever. That takes a lot more, I guess, a lot more effort or a lot more commitment to playing the game, right? Because maybe someone doesn't really want to like invest that too much, but they still want to play the game. And that's the progression of links. Like that's the point. It's very simplistic. It's not as difficult. Of course, there are difficult link sequencing, but for the most part, it's easier to grasp, right? The concept of it.
And then I'm just sad that some decks that do have unique link mechanics are not supported properly for their mechanics. Something like Salamangreat having to mandatorily play several of one link monster does not feel fair.
Well, yeah, of course, but that's the competitive nature of the game and where it's progressed, right? Like, because we have something to compare it to. Like, if you think about it, if we never experienced past formats where they're a bit slower and they're not as explosive, we wouldn't know any different, right? It would all be determined by the turn 1 or turn 2, and it's just the natural progression. Is just that we have a compare and contrast. Like, okay, well, yeah, this is a bit overwhelming, but at a competitive level, that's just where it's been for quite some time until.
I mean, even if you look back at like even Edison format, there genuinely can be games where you just compare hands and be like, yeah, you win.
Yeah, but there is a capacity in which that's happening, right? It's how frequently is that happening, right? Like if out of 10 games that's happened like 3 times, okay, it's not as much. Whereas currently it's happened like 8 out of 10 games where you just can't do anything, right? So that's the difference.
Yeah, like modern is basically like you literally just compare hands.
Yeah, in some games, yeah, but that's the point of the competitive nature of deck building, right? And what meta is meant to be doing. It's the better deck. It's going to so when 2 consistent and efficient decks are meant to do something efficiently, then that's what's going to happen. And that's where you add cards like hand traps. And then what's happened now? Well, you have to oversaturate your deck with hand traps, like 15 plus, and hope to draw 2 or 3 hand traps to try and stop them, right? And then what's the next step? Right? Because then it becomes stale. Okay, so everyone's gonna start with 1 starter extender, 3 hand traps. That's gonna, most people are not a fan of that because they're like, oh, what's I can't play my rogue deck because my rogue deck doesn't abide by that fundamental of having a starter and a extender and 3 hand traps. I need more cards to function. So what has the OCG been doing? They've allowed Maxi to be relevant still, because that means what would you rather do? Open up 3 hand traps, or open up 1 Maxi? Because 1 Maxi will make them will contemplate, oh, do I extend or do I not? Right? But the
1 Maxi literally makes any rogue deck, like 1 Maxi can make any rogue deck beat the top deck's best board.
Yeah, but that's the paradox, right? That's the paradox. So the solution is a problem, and what I mentioned before on the call, the solution is a problem, and the problem is the solution. You know, so that's just what it is. Because like that's why the Charmy cards are out.
Like Sub-Terra deck became unplayable with the limit, with the banning of Summon Limit, which was the deck's best card.
Yeah, I don't know, but Summon Limit's a bit different though, because that's what I'm saying is it's a bit more complex than that. Like trying to like decipher why they banned that or why they banned Floodgates. You know, because like of course like Floodgates with paired backed up with the full combo, it's like that's just unfair. You know, but like which I guess. It's like I just want to know how do they come to that decision to ban a particular card and ban something else and not banning something else. Like the first obvious one is okay for future sets. They need this to be relevant.
It could just be. It might not be necessarily. Okay, it's a contemplation. Is like, is a card considered broken, or is a card just considered too overpowered for what's around it?
Yeah, I think what it contributes to, which is what the Charmies are doing now. Like the Charmies are meant to do exactly what Maxi did in OCG, where you're not required. Like, but then that's where because going second is a bit worse because you're dealing with a pre-established setup on top of the interactions. So you need some sort of way to mitigate that, and that's what the Charmy cards come in, right? Because like you don't mind losing the dice roll, which is one of the issues with everyone. No, once you lose a dice roll, you're like, oh fuck, did I open hand traps? No, fuck. Okay, the odds of you opening up 3 hand traps compared to just opening up 1 Charmy, like which one would you want? Which one would you prefer? Well, the Charmy, of course, because that means 1 Charmy can shift the entire dynamic of what they're trying to do. Oh shit. Okay, well, do I give him cards? Do I not? Is me giving him 2 cards enough? You know, and that's what the Charmies do. That's exactly what they do. Yo, what up? Yo,
is are breakers too powerful?
What up,
or are they
Schreiser?
too weak?
Huh?
Like are breakers too powerful then? Because we've seen it then. We have Tenpai, which is probably undoubtedly the best going second deck ever. And if you think about it, what other decks have ever prioritized going second in history? I can really only name like one.
Which is that one?
It's like Gladiator. It's like Gladiator Beast in like 2009.
No, I'll give you another one. Cyber Dragons is another one.
Oh yeah, Cyber Dragons. That was the OG.
Yeah.
It wanted to go second. Yeah.
And then another one. This one's more debatable.
Ancient Gear, bro. Ancient Gear.
The one I was going to say that this is debatable if you want to say prioritize first or second, but Dinosaurs is another one.
Oh yeah, Dinos. Dinos. Yeah, that's another deck that I love to go second as well.
Like early Dinos or like?
No, I'm talking about Dino.
Recently, this past few years, no? Like 2-3 years ago?
Oh, the reason. Okay, I know the reason why. The reason why is because they've been because the way Mist works, right?
Yeah.
Because people would be like, if you set up your Dino board and then you use Mist main phase 1, your opponent will just go, okay, battle main 2, and then ignore Mist. So I guess now people are sort of like, well, if I guarantee myself to go second and I can resolve a Mist, I can just completely break the board uninterrupted.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, oh yeah, Numerons as well. Yeah, no, Numerons too. Numerons go second. There's been a few that go second, but like yeah, Tenpai is, as of recent, Tenpai has just been like the monsters freaking go second deck. Like, it's just crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, and when I say this, I'm not saying that any of these decks are necessarily better than Tenpai Dragon going second. I'm just saying that, like you said, the question was that they would prefer to go second. All in one's example.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's keep
What
going.
about even
Degenerate deck.
because then you think about like, okay, what makes Tenpai broken is the fact that their engine is very, very small and consistent, and they can just play an ungodly amount of non-engine. So, you know how many games they're going to open? Raigeki, Lightning Storm, Duster, Dark Hole,
Yeah.
with a starter.
What up, Tito?
Oh,
Which is
that's
then the
true. But
contemplation thing, like, then you have stuff that are just non-interactive. Like, Tenpai is a completely beatable deck, very beatable deck, and I don't even think that good if it wasn't for the field spell just saying, yeah, I can ignore hand traps.
Yeah. No, but then that's where it presents a different dynamic of how to consider your non-engine or your type of deck you want to play, because there has to be a meta established, right?
But they gimmick up it. They gave them a field spell that's a Rhoda Searcher.
What up, Antonio?
And a secondary makes your guys unaffected.
Hmm.
And the deck
Well,
was
then
an MPK deck.
well, the thing though is that you can make the same argument for any other deck that has a 1-card engine, and it can just play a bunch of non-engine on top of that though too. Like the one that comes to mind for me is Dark Warrior. Back when it was able to do like you could either do the Rongo, or you could do hand rips.
No, but the thing about those type of deck building strategies is that, which is why the RDA build came to be the RDA trap deck that I've been playing this past few months, is because everyone was on hand traps, and I knew that since they're oversaturated with hand traps, that means that they'll have like one starter and then maybe an extender. But because their deck is like filled with non-engine, they're gonna have a bunch of like hand traps that don't do anything. So let's say they ash me on my soul, right? Okay, it's fine. Set my traps pass, and then the traps are just so high impact because they're traps. They have to be better. They have to be more high impact than any hand trap because you have to set them. You just kill them the next turn, right? Like, and that's how you kind of like shift the dynamic.
I've noticed. I think that's why.
Huh?
Sorry.
No, you go for it.
I think that's probably why you're so like hooked on RDA, especially TCG wise right now, because it's one of those weird decks where you can play the deck really low to the ground and saturate with blowout cards that don't care too much about hand traps.
Yeah.
Because the only reason why I say this is because Gaia exists as a card.
Yeah. No, but because more so to expand off that, it's because think about it, right? Let's say I have like Soul, and like 4 hand traps, right? Okay, I go Soul. They stop me. Okay, it's fine enough. That's fine. I have Gaia search, turn after turn. I have 3 traps, and they're gonna be oversaturated with a bunch of hand traps. So what happens is, since I have so many hand traps, they're anticipating that, okay, I can stop a combo deck because that's how I lose. I need to simplify it because my one starter trying to push past an established board is not gonna happen. So you need to simplify it by having a bunch of hand traps. But what happens with the RDA deck is that they stop me with one hand trap. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Set three traps, pass. At the right time, right? Where I didn't have to like be like, oh, I have to ash this snake at ash. I have to imprint the ash. I just wait for everything, destroy everything, and now since they have so many hand traps, their top decks is gonna be most likely hand traps, right? Like that's just the reality of it. If they manage to resolve their combo, drawing a hand trap to reinforce that board would be ideal. But the fact that the traps just completely destroyed their attempt in them establishing that, they're going to be drawing hand traps, and then like, okay, well, it's fine. I still maintain tempo with the traps, right? And that's why I feel like having an approach that way compared to just matching hand trap for hand trap, because hand trap are like very like low ceiling and low impact in a way that they can, like Valor, they can still keep the resource. Imperm, they can still keep the resource. Like unless they're going -2, try to resolve a particular effect, then okay, that's where it can be high impact. But for the most part, like Valor, Mourner, You know, like those type of cards it still allows them to like go Hida into Princess into it's like do all these other sequencing. Whereas traps doesn't allow that, especially the traps that we've been using or I've been using on an RDA deck, like the Ruma, Torrential, Nitty Sling, IDP, right? Like those type of cards just make it very different, and that's how you kind of like capitalize on the meta and the way it is.
There's a reason why Labyrinth is such a good deck. Well, one, it basically has searchable DVG and searchable D barrier. That's the big reason. But
it's pretty crazy though.
Simultaneous equation cannon, banish your opponent's whole field.
That's so busted. I wish I could play that card. That card is insane. Like, cause that's the thing about traps. It's the same principle of why I'm using blowout traps like Torrential, Didoceling, Daruma. Is because you can wait at the right time. You don't have to like interact prematurely where you would have with like a hand trap, because you don't care. You know where this is leading to. You know that they're gonna get to this point, they're gonna get to this point. You don't care about that. You keep going, bro. Keep going. Boom. Flip that Didoceling. Destroy everything. What are you gonna do now? You know? Whereas sometimes an Imprim or a Veiler or an Ash might stop an OSS, but it's a bit like hit or miss sometimes. Whereas it's
you have cards that just dodge a lot of targeting right now too.
Yeah.
Like Yubel can search Shervara, avoid targeting. Basically.
Yeah.
You have Snake, you have Fire King, have Kieran, avoid targeting.
Yeah. So it's a different type of interaction, because like the hand traps are meant to prevent, right? You're preventing them to get to this point, but because the trap covers mostly everything they're trying to fulfill, you don't interact anywhere where a hand trap would have needed to interact with. You know what I mean? But yeah, okay, let's try to get through this video. Okay, now we're just going
at a
off.
snail's pace.
Last
And on a
last
bunch
thing.
of dumb
Don't try to get too jealous of being able to banish your opponent's entire field, Leo, because you can do that with already Red Supernova Dragon.
That is very true. Dude, okay, after we'll play the deck, and freaking dude, I completely forgot that Assault can revive Supernova. I was like, what the fuck is this? Double nuke is insane. So good.
Gates. Or, in Blackwing's case, 3 assholes that burn you to death for daring to play the game.
I pressed play and this guy saying 3 assholes.
Who looked at Blackwing and thought, yes, what the deck is missing is a focus on burn. That'll really invigorate the player base's interest in this deck. Remember in the anime when they made a point to show off Excel Synchros as a way to interact on your opponent's turn? Stardust dodging an effect, becoming Shooting Star. Yeah, me neither. Just treat Synchro climbing and Excel Synchro like Link climbing with extra steps. Great. Why Synchro climb into Crystal Wing, or anything for that matter, when you could be committing those resources to Link climbing? You can make Cerberus or Phoenix to out a card, then climb into Unicorn to out another. While you may have had to discard cards for both effects, the point still stands. Link climbing has far more universal value than Synchro climbing does. More often than not, you're Synchro climbing into a card you actually want. It was a very cool and rare occurrence in older formats when you got that level of mileage out of climbing. Now that's just free with links. So, Synchro climbing...
That's why we love Synchros, because the climbing, the incremental climbing.
It feels like an insult to all.
He turns low-level monsters into the boss monsters.
Yeah, like that was the cool thing about it. Oh my god.
Is seldom ever
feels like an
used,
insult
as
to
the
all
resource
Crystron
committed
players.
to it would be better used for link climbing. Also, let's not forget this little guy needing to be eradicated from the face of the planet as a result. An entire facet of this mechanic has been entirely invalidated. This has led to cards like
I'm
Assault
almost certain
Synchron.
you're probably going to try and... I know because you went on like a huge tear for playing RDA for a long while, right?
Yeah.
And you still are. I mean, I guess you know.
Yeah.
But I can imagine. I imagine once the Crystron cards come out, you're probably gonna.
Oh yeah. Once Crystron's come out, we're gonna pivot to that, because the Crystron's they have a special place in my heart for sure.
Say, please, for the love of God, use the Synchro mechanic. I'm begging you, don't link this off. And Revolution Synchron, that lets you just use it from hand for a Synchro. Because if you could special summon it, you wouldn't be using it for a Synchro summon, I'd wager. You can revive it to Synchro climb, but that doesn't Synchro lock. So you know this bastard
Have
is
you ever
getting used
played
for link
an
climbing.
exist-based strategy?
Paleo.
Okay.
Yeah, Paleo and what else? What are the XYZ?
Dino Rabbit?
Yeah, Dino Rabbit. Yeah, I played Dino Rabbit. That was my last meta deck that I ever played. Like before that, I was playing all meta. Like, and then Rabbit. And the only reason I played Dino Rabbit is because I pulled the rabbit, and and if you look at the rabbit code, it's 037, and that's the only reason I played it.
In any deck that isn't Synchron itself. Gen X has more recently
I like this
become
card
the
in
same
Kishron.
type of deck
This
that
card's cool in Kishron.
Synchron is. Just spinning your wheels for 10 minutes, summoning a billion guys, playing solitaire till you've hand looped your opponent out of the game, or made the standard negate board if
What
you're
up,
feeling
Evo?
a little zesty.
You're gonna
TG
play,
got support that made them...
Supply Squad?
The what? Supply squad. Supply squad. Hey, bro, that's gonna be if I draw 2, it's basically upstarts with the mechanic.
I mean, you can, with the new Clockwork Knight card, you can send that off to search Clockwork Knight. So,
No, yeah, Tony, we've been playing Centur-ion this past couple days. We're trying a P.U.N.K Synchron Centur-ion deck. After the video, we'll do a few games.
far more capable of Excel Synchro summoning, but just like Synchron, it's all in the service to an unfun, tedious gameplay loop. This type of design is only serving to tarnish the entire mechanic's reputation in the game, and only serves to paint a picture that Konami thinks this is the best design course for an entire mechanic. It isn't. While it may be fun to solve the dual puzzle of Synchron and TG the first few times, I can't help but feel like it's a convoluted process that dulls the more you're forced to go through the hoops. And when the luster of its puzzle-like gameplay wears off, so does any care for the deck. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have Shiranui. They're horrible, unless you're talking about
They're
duels.
horrible.
Then they're the Scourge of the Earth. They're far too slow to even function in modern game. Shiranui was a deck that was capable of synchro climbing, using the main tuner Spectral Sword and a material engrave to synchro summon, for you to then use a tuner on field with that synchro to synchro again. I like this deck's design premise. It's just a shame it's far too slow and low powered to actually be playable. But
some of these cards are pretty cool. Some of the Shiranui cards are pretty cool.
Synchros a second,
but
like its sister archetype. Mimighoul, its sister archetype and lore, falls more in line with the modern synchro philosophy. You ladder climb synchros with a singular tuner, and then link climb after, just admitting they're the same thing at this point. The cool design balance in this is that you're using a ton of extra deck slots on the deck's core strategy, meaning they don't have a lot of space for broken generics. Just ignore the fact that Daki already locks you into Miyakashi's anyway. I like that the deck is literally designed like a ladder.
Bro.
You climb up all these levels and links, then, when they're destroyed, you climb down into the cards engrave and they get their effects. However, in practice, this means sitting through this.
Oh yeah. I was like,
What a thrill.
this better not be copyright music.
And silence through the night. What a thrill. I'm searching and I'll melt into you. What a fear in my heart. But you're so supreme.
What is this song, bro?
Because extra deck cards have to be properly
I can't even
summoned
hear the
first,
music,
we
but,
couldn't
like,
have just
still.
designed a way to
I get
build
the
them
idea.
all. We have to sit through each individual summon.
Wait, can you
with
guys not hear
Nakijo.
Can you guys not hear this?
I can hear him talking. I just can't hear the music.
Oh, okay, I'll say.
Surviving every single time. Konami's aware of this fact, because they just made a skill in Duel Links to get around that. But without skills in the main game, all Miyakashi really amounts to is Bone Tower
Okay, cool.
Mill.
Almost there.
Riveting. Manatium is another prime example of the ugly side of modern synchro design. A deck that just goes and goes. It's not fun to play with or against. It utilizes unique aspects like using only tuners for its synchros and Vsauce's effect for destruction, leaving a unique playstyle in theory, but of course the reality is far less interesting. It's just a different flavor of the same synchro slop. Making Barone and any other collection of negates because they couldn't be bothered to give the deck an actual game plan beyond just spamming the board. The only modern day synchro...
But that's kind of the thing, though. They're trying to abide by the current status of the meta, right? Like, if you're not... like, otherwise, it has to be something better than what currently is. So, in some shape or form, this deck has to do something like generically getting access to one of the best synchros that was, which is Baron, right? If your deck can make Baron, you're going to try to go for make Baron. And... yeah, it's just
deck that's playable and
like,
not plagued by
saying that like the synchros like always go to the same like end board or the same like keep going around. Again, we mentioned Sword Soul, we mentioned Tenpai Dragon, mentioned soon to be Crystron, we've mentioned like Black Wings, we mentioned Hot Red Dragon, the Red Dragon. Like there's so many different ways to play synchros that's not just let's keep going until I hand loop my opponent.
Yeah.
Sure, that's what Synchron does.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that's like the same thing for every single archetype. And to say that that's not the case, and let's say the argument is that it's on a board of negates. Most of the other decks this format do at the same time, anyways. Sure, there's an argument to be made about like it shouldn't be always Baron and Appaloosa all the time, which they're both gone now.
Yeah.
That's fair. And that's fair. It shouldn't always end. That's one of the things that does get to toxic formats. If they're always ending on the exact same thing, whether it be Scythe Control from a couple formats ago, whether it be back when they were doing what's it called? What was the Mega Fan of Beast link that made you go Borreload, Savage, and Herald every game? Yeah. So like that stuff is stupid. But to say that, just because you end on a board of negates, that makes it like tiresome. That doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, it's a very reductive way to view it. Because if you think about it, like I mentioned before, like there's only certain ways that you can interact with the negate. Right? It's either spot removal or omni negate, right? And then they'll trickle down to like only exclusively effect negation, spawn propagation, and summons, right? Like that's generally how you interact. And different decks do that in a particular different way. But for the most part, that's meta. That's what is the best thing to do. If you have the option to make an Omni over just an effect negation, you can go for the Omni every single time, right? But if your deck is it has to abide by a particular restriction, then maybe your deck can only access the Spell Trap Negator. Maybe you can only access the Summon Negator. And that's how they're trying to differentiate things. But like, to say that it's very like same old like, but that's what meta is. There's no way around it. That's just, if you're gonna, why would you not play the best card if you're able to, right? That's what it is. That's kind of
by inherent degeneracy is Sword Soul. Sword Soul are all one-card synchros.
Sword Soul? Huh.
You summon one of them and they generate a tuner to make a synchro. Apparently, I'm an asshole for not enjoying this clear
This guy keeps saying assholes, bro.
You do technically need
assholes?
another card to get sent tuners, revealing, discarding, or banishing for cost. This cost is functionally inconsequential. It's consequential in deck building, which is the best way to go about balancing any cheating design gimmick, but this sets the precedent for what a healthy synchro deck is like. I don't know about you, but the healthiest deck of a mechanic forgoing its key aspect rubs me the wrong way. The fact that the archetype is synchro-based feels arbitrary. I mean, what's stopping them from just being worm links? It feels like since the only other two existing worm archetypes have synchros, they decided synchros were an obligation, but in doing so made it have no real commitment to the actual mechanic. Sword Soul has no unique interaction with tuners because they don't have any actual tuners, unless you count Golden Sword Soul.
Bruh. Where's Jin at? Where's Jin?
Would you still hate me if I was a worm? The deck has more meaningful interactions with non-effect cards, and that's the most unique facet of the deck.
Yeah.
Synchro's just
the
felt
10
like
card.
a tacked-on obligation, since it's
if I'm
just link
understanding,
summoning
he's
but
complaining
worse.
that the Synchros end boards are crazy broken and always linked to the same crazy stuff. But then when we finally get to one that's not like that, he's saying, "Oh, why aren't these just link monsters? Or why aren't they? Why do they not have main deck tuners and stuff like that?" Like, really?
Yeah. It's a form of perspective, right? Like, it's like, of course, it's like saying, like the premise of like a hero movie, right? You have a good guy and a bad guy. That's established, right? It's how it unravels and how the journey is being depicted. But just because it's the end result is gonna be good and bad, right? That's basically what is happening here. It's like it's the middle part. That's how you have to view it. Like, of course, you can't really deviate from the concept of good guy, bad guy. You can't. It's the difference between whether the way you initiate the sequence and where your pivot points are and how fragile your deck is. That's the difference, right? Because inevitably you're going to try to get to like the Baron, right? That's the point. And when this guy's saying that, okay, well, this is just, why not just play links?
The comparison I would make to that is like, if I was like, after me reacted to before that, was me waiting for years wanting for new Crystron support.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, like, why has Konami waited so many years? Now I finally got it. You know, why didn't they make that Synchro look more green so it fits Praise Yordle? Like,
yeah.
That's basically what it's like this guy's doing.
Yeah.
Now,
It's just perspective, I guess.
The Synchro base does give the deck access to the 8 and 10 pools of Synchro, with the only 8 you're summoning being the archetypal Chi-Shao and maybe Draco Berserker. Why do you forget me? And while I think Changing is a really cool monster, this deck isn't exactly making its own level 10s first. No, we have a special
Dude, I might be playing
card
Changing
just
in
for that.
Oh, that looks pretty cool. Synchro pool. What's happening now? Is he going to show us all the
generic
synchros?
Omni Negate on
fair.
a 10. Remember when you had to work for this? Barone basically is the
Fuck,
Synchro
Rita,
mechanic
bro.
now. You
Oh
know
my
it,
god.
but when the only Synchro monster people associate with the mechanic over her is the literal godfather of the mechanic. Which means it's dead in the TCG. Of course, a generic Omni Negate is going to see widespread play. The hell did you think was going to happen? Barone feels like Konami thought level 10 Synchros were harder to make than they actually were, since no one ever makes them, not considering the fact they hadn't printed a single good generic 10 until then, and so they made a card that makes the 10 pool permanently invalidated. Wonderful. Barone's reign didn't just lock down the 10 pool, it locked down the whole Synchro pool, being the only Synchro worth summoning. In my survey on Synchros, Barone was a constant. Absolutely everywhere from most common Synchro people summon at 13 entries to the most commonly seen Synchro at 28, as well as the Synchro people hate the most. The only Synchro that rivaled Barone in hate was Calamity, and you people really hate this bastard. Barone had like 50 different variations in spelling for each question, but when it came to Calamity, near everyone dropped his full name and address without skipping a beat. The only other constants were Borreload and Chaos
I'd say the
Angel.
only other one that would be close is it's either Omega or Dispatter.
Yeah, Omega, Dispatter are pretty. Yeah, Omega for sure. Omega in its time, it was just everywhere. Like, and Savage too. Savage as well.
To whoever specified they summoned Chaos Angel and Digital Bug. Why would you use a tuner on anything but cards like Barone or Borreload? As we established, the link pool is far better.
Well, that's subjective, right? Because depending if you knew, like, for example, let's say you knew that there was a strike, or you knew there was a line where they can bait the Baron and still have like the, you know what I mean? So like, what if you go? That's when utility gets implemented. That's why you would go Ruler and then Baron after, right? That's kind of what you want to do, because you want to insulate. You want to insulate the Baron. You would go, so and if your deck was capable of doing both, then that would be pretty insane. But yeah, primarily you prioritize Baron. Just barons. Why would you
and
make
far
barons?
more accessible than the Synchro pool. So much so that in order to actually get you to use the damn mechanic, the payoff has to be an Omni-Negate. Reflect on what this means.
Yeah.
Let's actually look at the Synchro card pool for a minute. Synchro 12s mostly consist of Excel Synchros and double or triple tuning Synchros. 4 of the 26 Synchro 12s
Oh yeah,
are
the Mighty
Stardust
Dragons,
Ultimate
bro.
forms, and 3 of them are RDA's Ultimates.
Okay, so
Outside of them, the 12 pool isn't super well developed. You have the 2 Centur-ion Synchros and Crimson Dragon as
Awesome.
the
Crimson?
only other
Oh,
notable
yeah.
12s. It's not very explored, with the Centur-ion cards being the only massive shift from
Better be
level.
including my Blackwing
Well, the
boy.
Crimson Dragon also contributes to that
They
shift,
included him
but we'll
earlier
get to
in the
that
video.
in due time. There are
okay,
7-11s in this game. Oh, shit. Synchro 11s are more tricky to make because it's a big
Punisher
odd
for sure.
number. So
Majestic.
it's great that the pool kind of sucks. Pep is the only good generic 11. Amazing Dragon and Clearwing Rider are pretty neat cards.
We're playing
restricted to their own
we're playing the
decks.
Amazing Dragon
I
in
think
the current
11s have plenty of
Centur-ion
potential
Synchro
for
front list.
boss monster design, as their odd level makes them far more difficult to summon generically. We just need to see more cards designed with that principle in mind. 10s have 54 cards, and in spite of Barone being the face of it, there's actually a sizable portion of notable cards. Dispater, Chaos
Yeah.
Angel, Chang Ying, Dragion, Gamer, Agerine, Goatee of the Deep Beyond, and
fuck,
Lancia.
Goatee?
These are all noteworthy cards in select decks.
Yeah.
10 is also home to some real dog water synchros. Majestic
Why are we
Stardust,
forgetting my boy
Shooting
Leo?
Star Dragon, TG Blade Bastard, Nirvana High Paladin, all cards that don't do much while being trickier synchro peripheral mechanics. What I'm getting at is that high-level synchros felt like they were intended to be special with Excel synchros and
Yeah.
whatnot. But beyond just power creep itself, aren't worth making in the
Yo,
first
Majestic
place.
Star Dragon can be a
Why
little fire,
properly
though,
make
because if you
Quasar
cheer
or
him off
Blazar
of,
when you can just
Crimson
cheat them
Dragon,
out
you can have
with
an
Crimson
negate and
Dragon?
wipe on your
Why
opponent's
cheat
turn?
out
Yeah.
Shooting Star Dragon when it's not even remotely the best 10 you can cheat out? I don't think all high-level synchros should be tricky to summon. Like I said, there are plenty of notable ones that even get overshadowed by Barone. But unlike Barone, those cards have niches. Some of them less niche than others. But you don't see them.
But niche is
instantly being
generally how
slotted-
you win sometimes because they're difficult to anticipate. That's how niche that's where niche comes into play, right? Because the moment they can predict your next move, anticipate, they know exactly what you're doing. But when you have a niche synchro or just anything for the matter, that's how you capitalize because they didn't expect it, and that's why you just win because it's like they couldn't prepare for it.
into every list
Yeah,
that has
like
a
for
tuner.
example,
Big
Blackwing Full Armor Master. A lot of decks in this format right now can out that probably relatively easily.
Yeah,
You summon that.
But
You
a
summon
preppy-
that against the Flundery. You summon that against the Flunderies player. They're not going to win unless they have a Kaiju.
yeah, yes. It's like that's the cleverness
number
of
is
deck building.
fitting
It's so
for
cool.
a big boss. Cards like Barone are not a boss. They're a nuisance. I want to see more big boys in the game. I just want to see their design treated with care, being powerful cards that fulfill strong niches, and not an all-purpose endboard piece. The 8 and 7 pool are the most commonly accessible synchro levels, and despite that, they feel kinda shallow. You have Stardust, a card that, while not terrible, doesn't really fuck...
What?
Stardust doesn't really factor into a
fuck was
modern
that
endboard
about?
piece, even though it'd be nice as
Wait,
one. Seeing as you're
Wait, what
more
is it? What do you do?
accessible synchro levels, and despite that, they feel kinda shallow. You have Stardust, a card that, while not terrible, doesn't really fuck... Stardust doesn't really
What the
factor
f- I think
into
this might have
modern
been a
endboard piece,
blooper.
even though it'd be nice as one. Seeing as you're more likely making an archetypal 8.
You just realized
Chixiao,
it's what it sounded
Bashia,
like.
Jam Dragon, Dragite, Draco Berserker. Instead, you're making Stardust excel. Not to excel Synchro Summon, but to summon Barone. Fantastic. The most popular generic 8s were
Speak for
Borload
yourself.
and Chaos Ruler. Both of those idiots are banned, and now it's clear how
Chaos
poor
Ruler,
the
RIP.
generic offerings of the pool are. Unless you just want to rip a card with Omega. Isn't that a fun use of your time? There's also
is.
Crystal Wing, who is a monster negate you
Yeah.
have to actually make
Crystal
by
Wing?
synchro
Oh,
climbing, or, cheating him out with Crimson Dragon. But for those who have a billion IQ, Supreme King Clearwing is clearly the better summon. When it comes to 7s, things get even worse. The only 7s you're ever likely to see summoned are Bident Dragion, Meteor Burst, and Ancient Fairy Dragon. And you're not having fun if you're seeing these cards. Cards you may see once in a Blood Moon include Shooting Riser Dragon, Clearwing, and Dawn Dragster. Cards you may see on Tumblr include... The only other 7 of note is Black Rose, and it's a card that isn't good in the game's current environment, but could always make a comeback if 7s were worth a damn. Ignore what I just said. No one told me you play that shit in Tenpai. This deck really will just play anything that has 7 printed on it, won't it? When it comes to 6 and below, I don't think I need to go into that much detail about how underdeveloped the pool is. There are just a lot of wild cards that, once again, don't do enough to justify making them over links.
And no, Cubot's fake. Where's Cubot?
Staples in the early days like Yugioh and Brionac, but not really anymore.
The
Maxi? The last time you summoned a 6
with thrust?
Without edging. For some reason, level 6 Synchros just draw cards. I don't know who decided that's what these cards should be doing, but okay. With cards like Penguin Brave, Mind Castling, and Starleon,
oh, Mind Castling's pretty good.
Feels like
I freaking lost to that. I got debuted and they stole my token. I was like, oh, you just lost.
Cards, but anything you put in a deck with Runic, I'm just going to discard from my memory. The 5 pool is harboring known war criminals. Junk Speeder.
Oh my god.
Sharia Beast, and Fitzgerald.
Oh, Fitzgerald's a classic. We used to play that in the Junk Double Deck.
It just gets more depressing.
He better not disrespect the level 5
So let's look at what other people
my
thought.
gosh.
Bro.
I conducted a survey on Synchros to gauge the community's thoughts on the mechanic. Granted, the pool is only 49 deep, so I can't say for certain it's a reflection of the consensus on a grander scale. But I do believe it provides insight as to how people feel regardless. To ensure I have a larger sample size to go off of in the future, this is where you now go into the comments and open the XD survey I've pinned in the comments in a separate tab. That way this issue doesn't repeat itself, as I'll be doing a video on XDs like
bro,
this
what do you say, bro?
On with the results. The most common archetype people selected as their favorite is Synchron, but there's also those who focus more so on the other Yusei cards, without mentioning Synchron specifically. This
RDA.
makes sense since it's Yusei's
Synchron
archetype,
for sure, Synchron.
regardless of its current playstyle. I'm pretty sure replicating the anime is enough to sell most people. Add to the fact there are people that like the puzzle-like aspect. In second, or first if you disregard all the other Yusei options, is Speedroid. People seem to really love Speedroid because it actually uses its own synchros. Of course, it can make Barone and Crystal Wing, but Crystal Wing was literally meant to be played in this deck. The third most liked was Goaty.
I'm sorry, this has got to be like somewhat biased or fake. I refuse to believe that some people have voted that Earthbound Prisoner is their favorite Synchro archetype, and Kriston is not even listed on this.
Yeah, it's only a sample size of 49, so like, yeah, it's not really that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to discredit some of these other ones, but like, there are definitely some Synchro decks that have not been listed here.
The 3 Blazer lines? Oh, hell yeah, I remember that, dude. The fuck? Well, I actually don't. I really forgot. If you were to tell me, oh, do it, or you're gone, I was like, oh, shit, I'm gone then.
The White Synchro. And in fourth was a tie between TG and P.U.N.K. TG is a deck similar to Synchron. That's by design, and so my feelings on it are generally the same, and I can only assume that's the same consensus with the people that like it. P.U.N.K is an interesting combo deck that I feel has the same core gameplay loop of Synchron, but actually goes about having a more healthy game plan in accomplishing it. The field spell is functionally just TG Librarian for the archetype, but it's actually balanced around the deck's structure, as well as the deck's actual end goal is interactive, using their Synchro to bounce as an interruption. P.U.N.K also has flexibility with rank 3s. It's a very open-ended toolbox deck, and I can absolutely understand why people like it. People's favorite archetypal synchros also help paint a picture. First place is a tie between DDD, Cursed King Siegfried, and Ice Jade Gimir Agerine. Siegfried is an archetypal spell and trap negate. but is one of the more nuanced negates that require the card to be face up on field in order to negate it. Ymir offers your monsters protection, and if her effect is chained to another, she gets to banish a card. Add to the fact she can come
What the fuck?
She can come back from grave when a card is banished. Well,
Fucking death scare, bro. What the fuck?
It's pretty apparent with these two that people really value monsters that provide the archetype with actual insulation. Goaty of the Deep Beyond is the boss monster of Goaty and provides the deck with an actual win condition. It being in second reflects the archetype's placement as one of people's favorites. To my shock, also tied in second is Shooting Star Dragon. It was the first Excel Synchro from Yusei with an incredibly hype introduction. Shooting Star also looks cool. Junk Speeder, P.U.N.K Amazing Dragon, Shen Stardust, and Odd Eyes Meteor Burst all tie up in third with 2 votes. This abundance of ties only illustrates to me that plenty of people are drawn in by a ton of archetypes. There is no 1 or 2
They're all
definitive
wind as
decks
well,
people
minus
latch
the Meteor
onto,
Burst.
which is a testament to just how many ways you can enjoy Synchro decks. When it comes to people's favorite generics, things get a little more questionable. Although most of the answers given are technically archetypal, it's abundantly clear through actual play they are a little more generic than their name lets on.
Baron
First
Savage.
is Barone, which I'd attribute to Stockholm Syndrome. Pep also tied for first from those who aren't suffering
Pep is
Stockholm
amazing.
Syndrome. Pep is just a cool card. It appeals to the ape brain with its
Feels like it's not
massive
a hard one's
numbers,
return.
but also demands both players approach the game more attentively, making sure your opponent can't find a way to drop their life points enough to nullify its protection. Second is a tie between Changing, Warlord, and Chaotic Magical Dragon. Third place is another tie between Stardust and Chaos Angel. While Stardust is a constant like Barone, it's clear not enough people feel as strongly about it in the game as more prominent modern cards exist. Chaos Angel is of course another modern staple synchro, so it makes sense. Its banish effect also isn't once per turn, which I feel is why Chaos Angel is both a despised and loved card. When it comes to people's favorite tuners, the most popular was Junk Synchron. Another case of anime favoritism and how iconic the card is. And second, it's a large tie between Excel Synchron, Blazing Cartesia, Formula Synchron, Harmonizing Magician, Odd Eyes Synchron, Plague Spreader, Vsauce, Virtual World Lulu, and 2 people put NA as their answer. Then third would just be everything else written down. What we can discern from these favorites, though, is that people like tuners that actually provide more than just their subtype to the equation. Most of them making synchro summoning easier or help the deck generally well. I can only assume the commonality of NA means that most people don't really end up caring for tuners, feeling like they don't fulfill much beyond just synchro summoning. Easily the most hated synchro archetype is Sword Soul, with Tenpai in a close second, and Synchron just behind it in third, with Centur-ion and Blackwing being just out of the running. Well, it's pretty clear the most hated synchro archetypes are in fact modern decks, especially if they were meta.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very specific demographic that took the survey, I guess.
Because of its lack of involvement in gameplay.
Sure, I think
and Synchron was the poster child of the worst modern synchro design has to offer. It highlights the fact that it is one of the decks you may enjoy playing, but no one actually enjoys playing against. The most hated archetypal synchro is Calamity. Second was Naturia Beast. Third is NA.
Okay, that makes
so
sense.
it's actually Junk Speeder, assuming the person who put Junk Warrior mixed them up. Otherwise, someone really hates the worst beater in the game.
So
notable third place contenders
Junk
are
Warrior?
Barone
Oh my
and
god, I
Bull
mean, what
showing
did
up
Junk
again.
Warrior
Once
do,
again,
bro? Where's the
meaning
fucking thing?
archetypal. Primeheart, who I assume is here because sucks, and as a result, Insured Monadium would just play out as the degenerate deck that it is now. Transcendent Dragion also shows up. I couldn't possibly fathom why. The fact Centur-ion synchros have a low representation here, and Calamity's massive showing, makes it clear that what most people really hate about Centur-ion was Calamity. The same sentiment likely extends to Sword Soul and its usage of Barone, though they may still hate them for Protoss as well. The NAs also make it clear people also don't necessarily hate archetypal synchros, which is in line with how people actually liked archetypes that use their own synchros. Naturia Beast is pretty self-explanatory. The thing is just a floodgate, one that invalidates 3 card types. That's really great to keep around in the game. Most hated generics are they're pretty obvious. Barone first and Boral second. Except tied in second is the Crimson Dragon. The Crimson Dragon is a really neat tool, but it also served as the card that would cheat out Calamity. And even with Calamity gone, it now just cheats out every Excel Synchro Stardust in the game instead, which are all negates. And this is played in Centur-ion.
That's only the natural progression of what a card like that should be doing.
About as unfun
Otherwise,
still.
why would you play it in the first place?
Angel. Also Calamity tied with it, but this is meant to be generic. Just a sign people don't even see it attached to its archetype. Chaos Angel is somewhat of a polarizing card. You either hate it because it's a powerful synchro that doesn't actually require a tuner, or you love it for that same reason. When it comes to hated tuners, first place is Ash. No way! The most hated tuner is the card that's a staple notably not used for synchro summoning? You don't say! Other tuner hand traps make an appearance, but it's pretty evident that Ash is the one at the forefront of people's minds. Second place is an actual tuner in Jet Synchron, likely due to its current role in Snake Eyes, paired with the scars Hulk is left people with.
Jet
Third
Synchron
would technically be NA, which I assume is a result of people not feeling strongly about tuners one way or the other, be it negative or positive. But if we're skipping over to actual cards, it's a tie between Chandra, Diviner, Deshudo, and Daki. Diviner, I presume, because of all the synchro summoning it doesn't do, Deshudo as an extender in a game of never-ending extenders, and lastly, Daki. I already went over why Daki is such an annoyingly designed card already, so we can wrap this segment up. So, I forgot to address Chandra. People just hate this deck. It sucks. Everything about it sucks. I had honestly forgotten the fact that most hand traps in the game are tuners for some reason. I was reminded of this fact by most people writing them under their most hated tuners.
The Mermer hatred, bro. We hate that tuner.
Hand trap tuners is that
we love and hate them. We love and hate them.
They're not really designed to ever be used for synchros. Of course, sometimes it does come up where you just normal Ash and make Barone, but it also brings into question what's up with the design of tuners. But before we move on with that train of thought, a dishonorable mention goes to Ice Barrier and Lancia. They showed up quite a bit as well, and why wouldn't they after the stinker of an event that was the Water Wind Festival? Lancia fixes Ice Barrier, but in doing so, reared the archetype's ugly design in a spotlight it should have stayed out of, summoning obnoxious floodgate idiots from the deck. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's really obnoxious.
Once per chain, mind you, compounded with the fact that Lancia also floats into Trish, counting as a synchro summon to hand rip you an out of card on field, and yeah, this card design is pretty annoying.
Future of Synchro.
As things are now, Links and Synchros can't really coexist. One design difference that prevents Synchros from being able to interact with Links is that they don't have levels. XCs don't have levels either, but they aren't the ones stealing their functionality. I think this could be remedied by designing some cards that treat a Link as a tuner, with their Link rating or a multiplicative of it being treated as a level for a tuner. Now, this still doesn't solve the issue of the card pool comparison, but I think this design direction is a way to start building a bridge for the mechanics to come together in a healthy relationship. Start doing more.
Can you imagine if that does happen? If they end up implementing a new mechanic where a Link can be treated as a tuner based on its Link rating, and all they would do is add a little tuning fork. Kind of like they do on Mashdo, where it's, okay, this is a tuner as well. That'd be funny.
What can be a tuner and how they interact with the other mechanics.
Like, you already see like pendulum launches getting like mixed in. Like there's pendulum synchros, pendulum XCs, pendulum rituals and stuff like that. So maybe.
Yeah, because think about it, right? Like, imagine that. Next thing you know, they're gonna put pendulum links. Like it's gonna be half and half. What the fuck? That'd be crazy.
It needs to
My name is
Heavy Metal Goldie is a very exceptional design premise for a synchro deck. The problem is, it's dependent on Fish, a monster type with very little synchro synergy in the main deck. As of recording
what
this,
up, Apollo?
They just dropped another shark that enables XCs. Keep them coming. and most of the archetype doesn't actually remedy this issue. What in God's name were they thinking designing this deck? Ah yes, the best design premise for an archetype is to have 0 starters. In the survey, it was pretty common for people to say their favorite Synchro archetype is Goaty, and it's not hard to see why. It actually aims to play the game in an interactive manner. The second most popular Synchro archetype was Speedroid, and the sentiment seems to be that people actually enjoy it when the Synchros facilitate the deck's game plan. They exist as actual flavor to not only the deck, but also the mechanic itself. Just because links and Synchros are functionally the same currently, doesn't mean that has to be the case. Konami has to make a commitment to actually setting Synchros apart, and archetypal Synchros and Synchro decks actually manage to
the
highlight.
Synchron and Blackwing
People
community
seem
got
to
their
hate
voices
more modern
silenced.
Synchro archetypes like Centur-ion, Sword Soul, and Tenpai, but how much of that hate is directed to the archetype at its core? Centur-ion's main game plan for a while was to summon Calamity off of Crimson Dragon, and of course, no one finds that fun to play against. Sword Soul was a deck that could consistently make Baron and Chi-Xiao, functionally 2 negates. Doesn't help they can also use Protoss to floodgate you out of the game, but Tenpai is a little more layered. The field spell is the most obvious offense. Konami took the laziest design route for the deck and just made sure it couldn't fail at its game plan, mixed with the fact that the deck can lethal through Prosperity.
I feel like it needed to do this though, otherwise it would just be another type of like Snake Eye, like it's a different approach, right? It's based off the battle phase, and in order for that to be, I guess, efficient, is by making sure that your cards are immune, so you can get to the battle phase. So it's like, you know, and yeah, like I guess saying that it's a very lazy way of designing a card is one way of viewing it, but if it didn't have that, this deck just would not be what it is now, right? And it would just be something else that would contribute to like a Dragon Link type of strategy, right? Because they're dragons. So I feel like it's kind of necessary in this type of archetype design.
Consistently,
And there
not
are
exactly
decent
the
counters
most
even
well
still
balanced.
to how to deal with Tenpai Dragon. Even
Yeah.
as powerful of a going second deck as it is.
Yeah, because now you have to address it, right? Now that this is one of the best decks, you have to consider how your main deck building, your side deck, right? Because they're trying to differentiate win cons, and this is one way to do so, right? It might seem unfair, but like think of the end goal. It's meant to function in a way where it's not like any other deck, right? So that's kind of where it's implemented in this way.
And the deck can get away with playing a million hand traps and still going full combo unimpeded.
Yeah.
It's an archetype that is catered to the game's current unhealthy environment.
Yeah, because think about it. If Tenpai was built the same way every other deck was built, minus the field spell, it would not be good. Like, it would not be good. The reason it's good is because it's unaffected by you know what I mean? Like the fact that you can do everything, search everything, summon everything. You know what I mean? That's why it's good. We can go unhindered during the main phase. Because like if you go like because that means that all the focus is then is on the field spell, trying to get rid of the field spell so you can then interact with the monsters, right? But if you can't interact with the field spell and the monsters, then the monsters survive, which is the main objective, making sure that your monsters stay on the field so you can get into the battle phase and attack and try to fulfill your game plan, right?
Okay, Leo, Clockwork Knight, turn all their monsters into machines. All your hand traps are alive now.
That is very true, bro.
And that's not a good thing. I absolutely love Tenpai's playstyle on paper, but its actual implementation is just atrocious. I love the fact that you actually attack with the main deck monsters, then perform the synchro summons to then attack with them, giving it this feeling of an endless assault with all the attacking. It's extremely satisfying, but it is all in service of just killing your opponent with absolutely zero resistance. It also leaves the deck with no going first strategy, so people realized you just fill that blank in with turn
that's
skips.
strength and weaknesses.
Wonderful design principle, that is. Sword
just how it
Soul,
is.
should it actually use Changing and Chi-Xiao, is a decent gameplay interaction. Chi-Xiao is a monster negate that doesn't destroy, but in sequence with Changing, it very well can be. Or, it can destroy another more pressing card. However, you don't want to expend these effects all at once. They're actually a neat combo that contributes to more dynamic gameplay. It's just a shame the deck is left to do far less interesting things instead. I love Centur-ion. I love that we finally decided to utilize continuous trap monsters so they can be used as actual interactions. I love that there's level modulation to give the deck versatility with the Synchro card pool. But as said before, Calamity did tarnish this deck's reputation. Given Centur-ion's theming, I would have liked to have seen the deck actually perform Excel Synchro summons, but their levels
pretty good
don't
right
really
now.
allow for that.
What it's capable of doing now
because of
Primus?
it definitely leans more into building up on your opponent's turn, being able to use the girls to synchro on your opponent's turn with the field spell to, get this, interact with your opponent. It actually gives the deck a healthy and strong foundation. Centur-ion very much feels like GOTY, but playable. I just hope the fish catch up, and they start making more synchro decks that can maintain this positive gameplay loop. Chaos Angel is a bit of a contentious synchro card as shown. It can be made without a tuner and clearly plays into the light and dark chaos theming, with you being allowed to treat one as a tuner to summon it. Other than being a powerful generic card, I think it's niche enough that it's an alright card to exist. The issue with cards like Chaos Angel is that they invalidate the mechanic in a way by just not needing a tuner. I think cards designed like Chaos Angel should have additional benefits should you make them with an actual tuner. Honestly, I'd like to see similar synchros using fire and water, as well as wind and earth. The design is niche enough that I think having them be staples would be an overall healthy addition to the game. When I asked people how they feel about more synchros that are made non-traditionally, people seemed interested in more cards being designed that way. You have Prime Heart with the same non-tunerless loophole that Gotham's had, except this time was definitely deliberate. And also, it's worse. And the same goes with Synchro Vsauce.
Like,
I think it is interesting to turn the mechanic.
Have the same issue. Like, look at in hero decks, you have mass change, like instant fusion summon into a Dark Law, or like you can for Orcust, you can overlay one Lake monster into your Dingirsu. Or like pendulum summon granted they need to summon properly first, but you can pendulum summon some of the Xyz pendulum or synchro pendulum monsters from your extra deck. So like the whole idea of like, oh, this mechanic's getting bypassed with certain monsters and stuff, that doesn't necessarily make the mechanics bad, because every other extra mechanic has had some type of monsters do it in some way at some point. So making it efficient in a way to keep up with the power creep of what is currently happening, right? Like that's the whole point. But I think it's just I think it's just basically voicing out the obvious. You know, it just articulating itself, and it's just something to allow you to kind of understand it a little bit better. But like, and it just comes down to just the progression of the game. It's just unraveling in a way where some people are still not, I guess, agreeing with it, but it's just what's required. That's just what's required. Like, you have to do some weird things. You have to make something better than the previous. Otherwise, you just won't sell product. Like, that's the whole point. Yeah. And I will say, like, I agree that it shouldn't become the norm by any means. But at the same time, like, to have like a boss monster or something here or there become something that's not like a natural synchro summon, that doesn't inherently break or ruin the mechanic.
I think it'll get to a point where they're gonna have to do something similar, like the pendulum mechanic and the link mechanic, how they retracted the whole way it was initially meant to function. So, because like if they've done that before, they might do it again, and they'd be like, okay, we could change this, you know, and because it's trial and error. And what I said at the beginning of the stream, I said that it seems like they're trying to figure it out, right? That's the whole point. While in the process, trying to maintain their business within the TCG to stay healthy, right? Because like you would want to innovate in a way where you can get people to understand the game and grasp the concept quite easily, right? Which is why Best of Ones and Master Duel was such a thing, because it's mobile, it has how many downloads does it have? Like it's not necessarily something that you invest a lot of time into unless you want to, which is you are capable of doing so. But for the most part, it allows you to just I can play the game on my phone while I'm on a train ride, while I'm waiting for like an appointment, or while I'm at work on break. It's just something fast paced, like that's why it's like best of one, right? So you want things to be that way. You lose, okay, scoop, next game. Okay, I win, nice, scoop, and then vice versa. Whereas with TCG is a bit different because the progression of that, of course, some of it will have overlap to Master Duel, because how can it not? But for the most part, the nature of it, it's going to be different because of how you want people to get started with the game, pick up the game, and the way you do that is by making it simplistic, like not having to do all these other things, all the like just make it simple, right? Like the links are the most was a perfect example of what they tried to do, right? And yeah, that's what you want. That's what you want newer players to play. You want people to not be completely overwhelmed, and let them decide whether they want to continue that complexity within the game. But if they want to stick to like a very simplistic low sequence deck, then that's kind of the option there, which is where Tenpai is facilitating. It's allowing people to like, okay, all I have to do is go second, and they just destroy the back row, destroy the monsters, and attack. That's pretty simple, and that's going to garner attention, right? And then that's where they get, eventually, inevitably, they will get bored of it. They might not get bored of it. They might just like playing the deck at all for the entirety of them playing the game. And once that gets hit, they just stop playing, right? And then you have a new influx of players joining the game. But for the most part, let's say they initially start with Tenpai, but then it gets boring, so they dive deeper to the game and like more complex strategies, and then you know what I mean. And that's just how it is. That's just yeah.
And there's plenty of people out there who just play Master Duel. They don't play the TCG, and then vice versa. There's a lot of people who play the TCG that do not play Master Duel. That's me. So and you'll have players in both situations through the rest of the game. So.
Yeah.
Mechanic on its head, so long as it fulfills a unique goal of expanding upon the mechanic. Oops, all tuners is a problem that has plagued Synchro decks before.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting
all tuner
to see
hands,
an
we've all
tuners,
experienced that.
It harder to use
all tuner hands, bro.
but
No,
not
fucking
being
way.
entirely impossible if you're adding in another engine. In my Archetype Architect video on Gradle, I had the idea to make a new form of synchro summoning that involved cards blowing up for the synchro summon. This allows for Gradle
Lefty and righty driver
sequence with performing a synchro summon. I mean, rockets do the same thing with Boral fusion, so why not? The context of specific decks can highlight the place the mechanic still has in the game with these mechanical distinctions. The survey really did just remind me that a lot of hand traps are tuners for no real reason, because Ash was by far the most hated tuner. But when it comes to tuners that aren't also a staple of the game, people seem to hate cards like Daki and Jet Synchron, cards that come back to get more value. Now, we discussed this earlier. These cards were intended for synchro climbing. Jet Synchron has been to hell and back for the sins of others. Daki is more egregious of a card, but is tied directly to its archetype. With the game's current environment, this sort of design is rather unsavory. I really do hope Konami finds a better balance in designing tuners that provide more for synchro summoning and less for link spam. An Excel Synchro is a synchro summon performed with only synchro monsters. But this begs the question, is Excel Synchro a card type or just a mechanic? You can Excel Synchro a card like Barone, but that doesn't make it an Excel Synchro monster. Perhaps designing new Synchro boss monsters with added benefits should they be made via Excel Synchro is a good...
Wait. I'm assuming this guy didn't watch the anime.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Excel Synchro during their turn.
Design space to follow. People seem to think Excel Synchro can't be anything but combo spam. This is the most narrow-minded thinking possible. Centur-ion and Goaty remember the fact this is a two-player game, and as a result, actually seek to pace out their combo between both you and your opponent's turns. This design space is applicable to any facet of the game, including Accel Synchro. The literal first showcase of an Accel Synchro was Shooting Star being summoned during Primo's turn. It was part of what made Accel Synchro so appealing because it felt like entering hyperdrive to dodge effects. The problem is, people seem to hate decks that play on your turn, even if what they're doing is something that's actually engaging and interactive, even if your opponent spent less than a minute on their turn. Speaking of playing on your opponent's turn, while the Crimson Dragon may be my favorite Synchro, I don't think it can stick around for too long. Calamity already highlighted one of the war crimes you can commit with it. This is reflected by how polarizing the card itself seems to be. Something Crimson Dragon can do that is cool is cheat out more niche Synchro Dragons, but ultimately it's a little too open-ended and easy to summon for it not to cause problems down the line. It potentially limits Synchro design space in the future. Add to the fact that there's another asshole that can cheat it out, of which is a Blue Eyes card. Yeah, I don't think Crimson Dragon's gonna be the one that gets to stay. Ideally, I'd love it if the Crimson Dragon was errated to be like the new Clearwing, where you can make it through double tuning or Accel Synchro. I think the Crimson Dragon is a fair payoff for that cost, but Crimson Dragon can literally cheat those out and invalidate that entire process. Also, tilting entrainment in Pendulum makes it functionally innate. Too bad every Pendulum tuner under the sun has to be banished to the ether if they dare be summoned from the extra. In defense of Crimson Dragon, if you really think about it, it did force Konami to slaughter Borreload and Calamity. Food for thought. What I'm trying to say is, I will cry if you ban him. There aren't a lot of double tuning synchros in the game. You have all the RDA cards, and of course, the new Blue Eye Synchro, leave it to the whites to steal our culture. So that's why it's called White Destiny. And Crystron, Quarian Gandrax.
Quarian Gandrax.
One of my favorite synchros in the game. My favorite thing about the new double tuning Blue Eyes is that you're not even meant to summon it properly. That's pretty cool design, Konami. How about you actually utilize your game mechanics for a purpose, huh? Triple tuning is currently exclusive to the Red Nova retrain, but I'd honestly like to see more experimentation with multi-tuning even at lower levels. I know the Majestic line of synchros suck. Well, maybe not the original Stardust if you summon
Where's
it off
Majestic? I haven't seen this
but
mention
I'd honestly
Majestic.
like to see more cards designed similarly. Not in how they function,
SMSD.
but how they're summoned. You had to do this awkward process beginning this awful level 1 with no inherent special summon, another level 1, and Stardust or RDA to summon them. I think designing synchros with these trickier setups is absolutely fine on paper. They just have to be far more doable and far less awful. They can serve as a way to make them more balanced, with not every deck under the sun being able to vomit them out. Extending off of that, synchros that require multiple non-tuner materials like Trish. This is less tricky nowadays, given how easy it is to spam the board, but the math still matters.
Trish is an OG back in the day, bro. If you guys watch the videos, fucking hell, setting up a Trish on their turn, amazing. So nice doing that.
Level synchros that require multiple materials opens up interesting design avenues for decks that have lower levels. Just make sure some of them aren't in the game by that time. Like I've repeated many a time, Cody and Centur-ion make it clear quick synchro should be far more present in their design. It prevents the bloat of synchroing a billion times in one turn to bore your opponent to sleep, and actually demands you and your opponent interact with each other intricately during each game state. Reverse Synchro was a thing with Dark Synchros in the anime, and was then later added to the game through Earth's Arctic. I think having more cards like this that turn the mechanic on its head introduces far more depth and nuance to the mechanic as a whole. Take, for example, a generic tuner that could copy a monster's level, effectively sapping that monster's level to 0 in order to synchro summon a monster of the same level. Of course, making it still a proper synchro summon, so you still need the correct listed materials. That way we aren't just cheating out things like the horse, and instead cheat out something like Cthugua to counter Riziel. Another interesting gimmick is with the Whitefish synchros. They all become tuners when revived. It'd be interesting to see more cards that become tuners under specific conditions. Imagine if there was an archetype with no tuners, but they utilized another mechanic like fusion to create those tuners. And similarly to fish, they become tuners under certain circumstance, or are easier to summon than most fusions. It gives more mechanical depth to the archetype's design and blends two mechanics together. Also, I just want a deck that can play Harmonic Synchro Fusion and actually
It's sure it's cool with the
summon
Airborne
good
stuff, being able
cards.
to summon the
First
Scarred.
Griffin is a cool concept. Just a shame it's a Salamangreat card. And Salamangreat doesn't
Harmonic
really
Synchro
care about
Fusion could have
using
been
its
such a
reincarnation gimmick for anything other than
added
links.
to
I
mechanic.
actually like to see more design
I
like
think
it.
that's just
Whether you
disappointing
make
where it led.
Salamangreat pivot to having a separate Synchro build or apply it to another
I would love
archetype,
this.
I'm in.
If they were like a Synchro, that'd be so cool to have a Synchro version of Salad. Yeah, awesome.
As I've alluded to, Konami should be doing more to flesh out the level.
Like the most you had is like
There's
the
not
one,
a whole lot for
Fire
the
Fist
mechanic
monster
to
that can
do
summon a salad
generically,
from
and
death.
Yeah.
there's still plenty more
Yeah.
depth to explore. When asking people how they feel about the mechanic's exploration as a mechanic, most people seem to agree it's not at its cap yet, and the level card
What up,
pools
Jenna?
are evidence
Or
of
Genna?
that.
Iglesias?
It'd be nice to see an archetype based around both Xyz and Synchro, and having coordinated levels and ranks. Having the main deck consist of 1s, 3s, and 4s to make ranks of those numbers, as well as Synchro 2s, 6s, and 8s. There's even potential to integrate Excel Synchro, and if you want to be neat, make the boss monster in Xyz that gains its best effects with an Excel Synchro attached as material. Another Synchro concept that hasn't been explored is an archetype that can Synchro summon with your opponent's monsters, like
Yeah.
Unchained does with Lynx. Of course, because of levels, this is much more finicky with Synchros, but I believe it opens up interesting opportunities for design, either in having on-the-spot level modulation to account for your opponent's monster levels, or even ways to manipulate your opponent's levels, and maybe even excel against decks that use monsters of a specific level. There are also the weirdly specific counter
gotta
traps
head out,
that
man. My
Synchro
phone's about to
summon,
die,
but
so-
not
Alright, Nick.
actually,
You have a good night, bro.
Korshath and Blackwing Dragon
take care,
cards.
guys.
It'd be interesting to see this become a little more common. I mean, Stardust Road exists, there's plenty more unique ways to implement similar designs. Lastly, Assault Mode,
what's it
another
called?
mechanic that gives more nuanced
the shadow
dynamics to
card, the
synchros in the
Blackwing card
game's
is pretty
environment.
cool.
I have
Yeah.
an entire video about it. Go watch that so this video isn't an hour long. The bottom line is that Synchro design should lean more towards an interactive design just like every facet of the game should. These 30-minute combo piles aren't good for the game's health, no matter what color the border of the card is. Synchro is a mechanic that I think still has plenty left to give to the game. There's so much room for growth in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! But Konami seems to stumble over themselves when it comes to a lot of these decks, be it undertuned or overtuned. I'd just like to see this mechanic remain a beloved part of the game, and not another bullet point on a list of this game's perceived flaws. And right now, it seems like we're trending in the right direction. I only hope that it can stay that way, and find better balance. See you again when I talk about Xyz, which will actually be a more positive entry in the series. So that means no one will watch it. Bye-bye!
Oh my god. That was damn, that was a freaking long ass video, bro. That's crazy. Okay. Well, we have
No, what's your thought? Do you prefer more archetypal stuff in the future, or do you want more generic stuff?
I for the innovative deck builder in me, I would want more generic things because you're allowed
What
to
Cyframe Omega is an example. It's
yeah
an archetype card, but it's used more generically.
yeah
But Cyframes is like a near unplayable strategy, so it's maybe a bit weird of an example. What's another like very archetypal card that just sees generic play, but benefits a lot more in its own archetype? You could Scar Red, like the Crimson, like the RDA synchros, right?
yeah
You could say that they're applicable somewhat generically, but then they fully excel in their own archetype. I think that card design is really smart.
yeah. I like how the RDA is
that's the
cooler
ideal.
designed for sure.
That's the ideal concept, I think.
Yeah,
You want
like it's-
something that's really good archetypal, like you want it to be maximized archetypal, but can be used generically for a less of effect.
Yeah, that's what I like.
Like I guess the P.U.N.K 8, the P.U.N.K Synchro 8, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Is another good example. Like
Mhm.
Jam Dragon Drive.
yeah,
You can use it to search either a generic extender with like Psychic Tracker, or you can use it to search a generic hand trap like Ogre,
yeah.
Or if you use archetypal, you can search, your actual archetype cards. Like you can search Xiamen, for example, if you start with like a Ascator package.
Yeah.
Like that card design is really, really ideal, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like the
But then
flexibility of being able to mesh cards together. Like that's kind of like, because if the deck is pre-constructed for you, it's like, okay, yeah, so I don't have to like deck build it, right? So it's already built for me. So that aspect of the game is kind of like where I enjoy the most, on top of the technical play, right? That's like two of the major things. Because winning's fine, right? Yeah, winning's cool, but like it's just the way you do it. It's and that's more fulfilling in a sense of just simply winning, right? Because it's like it's something that you've constructed out of your intellect, right? Depending on how much effort you put into it, and that's kind of what I strive for.
What about because I don't know if you know, like there are some
what up, Halo?
like, so there's a weird aspect where some archetypes ended up getting pooled into like overall Yu-Gi-Oh typings. Like
Yeah.
insects and reptiles have just sort of been conglomerated into their monster type rather than archetypes.
Yeah.
Like basically any insect card is just going in the insect card pile of like they all kind of work together. It's the pendulum problem too, where basically any pendulum stuff that comes out nowadays is just conglomerated into a pendulum pile deck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a problem like where like those types of things, it's really hard to fix archetypal wise when they're kind of fundamentally already generic.
Yeah, and you can't really pivot, otherwise it'll just be hurting the.
Once you start, yeah,
it'll be hurting the mechanic other than helping it, and that's kind of like where it's
like
it's a bit difficult to pivot from that approach.
Like reptiles is another example
Mm.
where they kind of have this weird thing where they first started with like the alien cards and like the counters, and them having like
Yeah, what was up with
same
that? We
problem-
never saw anything come out of that. The alien counter things. Like, what the fuck? Or the predaplant counters. Like, okay, yeah, the Dracus Apelli is like the best thing that we got from that type of approach. So, I don't know. It's just a game. Like it's just like it's so complex in the way that how we choose to enjoy it. But anyways,
what about me? I'm playing Rank 8 Turbo. I went to locals today. I'm terrible.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. No, but the list I sent you was pretty good. I was testing it. I was like, oh, it's not bad. But yeah. So I'm going back to the Centur-ion P.U.N.K Synchron list. I made some changes in the sense, like, I felt like, I was thinking like, okay, well, what if I don't go speeder, right? Like, I was like, what if I don't post speeder, and I would just go like a arriving light stuff, right? Because like, otherwise, what's the payoff of playing Synchron? Like, what would be the reason for this? And it's either you play speeder or you play the arriving light package, because that means that these will be replaced for Wills, Brotar, and arriving light, right? Or I don't even have to play Brotar. I can just play Worm, but then I don't need Worm if I'm not playing speeder, because the whole point of Worm is to make the 4-in-1 beast speeder. So that means if I play the arriving light stuff, then all I would need would just be just Wills and arriving light, and freeing up 2 more slots. So I'll take that approach tomorrow, but for now, let's continue doing the speeder line, because they're still pretty good. But yeah, let's get started, and then so it's been doing pretty good. I've been liking how it's been performing.
How's Retaliating? See, have you got to really?
Yeah, it's been
yet?
pretty. Oh, actually, no, I haven't used it yet. I haven't been able to use it. But we'll see. Hopefully it pays off. 205. Okay, let's go, Rock. Yes, let's go.
And I know people are gonna say, "Why aren't you playing Fualos?" Is because he's trying to practice it realistically.
Yeah, because I don't have access to the Charmix. That's why. Okay, oh, it sounds busted. Let's go. Yeah, let's do this. I'll let me put some music on, bro. Hang on. Actually, it makes it more difficult to edit when I have the music on. Because it cuts me off. So I think does he have Ash here? Oh, that would okay, it's fine. I think we're okay. Let's place Centur-ion, place. Yeah, we'll place. Place here. Place this. And I guess we won't get access to the speeder stuff, but we'll get access to Centur-ion stuff, which is still perfectly fine. Then we'll get us. Oh shit. Imperm. Okay, that's fine. Then we just pivot to wait, actually is it I mean
you could just make the P.U.N.K synchro and search ogre, and hopefully that's call it a day.
no, but I need to I need a psychic to make this guy.
Or you make Omega and just rip one and pass.
Because like oh shit. Wait, what? Oh fuck, I could only make this. I'm locked, remember? Because
right, is there no other emblema card
that we can search? No.
So there's only one search target?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I could be wrong.
There is another one. I think there's another one, but it's really bad. Holy cow, this guy opened the nuts.
Impermaster is pretty devastating. Yeah, we'll see. I need a place and hopefully draw into the hand trap here. Yo, what up, doing the book? We just finished watching the State of Synchro.
Yeah, maybe just quickly look at their other emblema card. Just see if it's anything worth playable.
Sets. Place center. I'll do that. I need to place Autry. So I can draw into something here. Maybe a hand trap, hopefully. What the fuck? What the fuck just happened? I couldn't do anything. Get the fuck?
This hand must have been full hand traps.
Yeah, probably. We'll just leave it as is. We'll see how this goes. What in the world? I'll just put the music. This will be fine.
Leo, we still have one more synchro to be revealed in Supreme Darkness. It's going to be a generic card because we've already gotten everything archetypal support based. So it's going to be a generic synchro.
This is Tenpai. He's on Tenpai. He made me start.
Oh, maybe if he charms you, that's kind of like.
Well, let's see. What?
I say wait. Don't start with Itele because if he has, you don't want to like guarantee him one. So see if you can just start with the Centur-ion names.
Let's do this. Oh fuck! It's Shifter.
Oh. Well.
Yeah, it is Tenpai. Actually, let me think. Because I can't use the field spell now.
You can still set up a quick synchro though.
No, I can't. Because I can't use either of these effects. What, can I use this?
Xiamen would be your non-tuner, so you can quick synchro into Qui Belt.
I think it has to be this and go into Omega Rip.
But that just means any starter form. You have Imperm.
Yeah, I think
just set up a quick. I think quick synchro set up for a Qui Belt.
Oh, I can't even fucking use this. The fuck? I'll just search a trap.
Okay.
Oh my god. Oh, I let it go through. Oh my god! I fucking banished the trap. That's so fucking stupid. Oh my god, that's so dumb.
Are you sure the field spell's not discard?
Yeah, no, I can't do it. It's send.
Wait. Oh no, you can't use.
Yes, I can do it. Actually, I can use Yamen to get me Dear Note.
That is what though? Too bad you don't play AFD.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, now I can do it. Can I do it? Activate, reveal some. Yeah. Oh, I can do it now. Right? You can review when Punk wants for someone. Okay, yeah. So we'll reveal. Oh, it's Oxala, no?
Well, it does what for you?
That's Oxala searches what? Searches anything.
Nothing.
If I go for an 8, go into Primus. Primus, there's no. Oh, Primus gives me Oath. Yeah, let's do that. Or I can go into Jam Drive. No, but then Ogre does nothing for me.
You can't use Ogre under Shifter.
Yeah. I mean, I could just rip his hand. Let's just do this. Hopefully it gets me there.
Raigeki, Duster, Normal Summon Pydra. Go next.
Okay, then I'll place here. What the hell does he have? Oh, I know what it is. It's fucking it's a Bestial most likely.
If it's Magnum, it's actually GG's.
Yeah. Nope. Okay, so it's Blazar and Imperm. This does nothing for me because it doesn't matter. Yeah, look at this. Look at that, what? Yeah, it adds a Bestial. It's a fucking Bestial. And if it's a Bestial, it's most likely gonna be Magna. Most likely.
They only play Magna.
So increase or not? Increase. No. I feel like I need to draw something here. I don't think adding anything with Oxta will get me anywhere. And this can place. Another hand trap will be nice here. Because either way, I still have Crimson here. If he imperms me here. Trail. I mean, I guess. It's Magno, bro. Fucking hell. Okay, end phase place. What do I play? I think it has to be. Fuck! It is Magna. Okay, so I have to. Okay. So Blazer Imperm. That's my. Oh fuck! I forgot about this. You can do it now.
Yeah, he just summons Pydra now.
I think if there's a way. Oh, he didn't. Wait, why didn't it let me fucking place with this guy?
Is it Oxala the only one that lets you place?
No, they
from
both
banished?
place. Yeah, during end phase, you can place one non-synchro Centur-ion monster from your hand or graveyard. Oh, hand or graveyard, okay, never mind. I thought it was banished as well. So Oxala is banished only. Yeah, Oxala is banished or cursed.
Prosperity is just so bad.
Yeah, that I get them a lot.
If you see him get the field spell, it's called GG's.
Double grave. Roll. Okay, cool. I might be okay. Removal. Okay, we'll look at it right now. Thank you, Halo.
What'd you say?
Emblem. Apparently, there's another one that's removal. Oh, I can actually. Oh shit! I can sync it with Rev in hand.
Oh, that's funny.
That's so cool. What the fuck? That's awesome. Does he change to it now?
Drop it, you. He literally can't drop it.
Yeah, he's a shifter. So what is it?
What is it? Forbidden Chalice?
No way. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Pest Prio. Maybe I should. Let's go, buddy.
Synchro summon! The all-powerful Crimson Dragon!
Well, no, wait. I just realized I don't even...
Is it?
If he normal summons...
Is it Supernova or is it Blazar?
What triggers Supernova? Is it monster effect or any activate?
Any monster effect. No, I think it's Blazar. It's Blazar. I don't have any tuners, so I can't make him beefy.
Yeah, that's bad then because you can't proc it on the activation.
What did he add?
So. Probably a Pydra or Kaiman.
Okay. I just didn't get a summon of anything though. Or I could just end the battle phase actually. Wait, actually, I just end the battle phase. When he attacks.
What do you mean? What do you mean end the battle phase?
Because Blazar, when your opponent declares an attack.
The problem is you have to imperm this Pydra.
Yeah.
And the problem is, if he already has Kaiman, it means he's just gonna summon Black Rose. And then you're forced to negate the Blazar.
Yeah.
And you're cooked.
Oh my god. Okay, cool. The battle phase, the end of battle phase is insane. That part of the effect is insane. But I'm scared if he goes Meteor and he has the quick play. That would be really annoying. But fuck.
They literally play Meteor.
Huh?
So they're probably, if they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they just go Meteor. On Master Duel, yeah.
What?
Interesting. I don't think they read that part. Fuck it out.
See, a card like Blazar should not be just cheated out easily.
Wait, what do you mean?
Blazar is too fantastic of a card effect to just be like, yeah, how about we just don't make it and we just cheat it out.
Well, no, within a vacuum it might seem so, but like, it's just like it's good and oh, what the fuck? It's good. It's good enough to where it can be considered to be good. You know, like if everything else wasn't as good as this or better, then yeah, I can understand why you would say that. But like compared to everything else, it doesn't seem too bad.
Oh, Leo, did you watch the Dual-Tanian video?
Nah.
Where he played it. MBT had a Dual-Tanian video where he played against Synchron, and the Synchron player made every Stardust XL Synchro like Quasar retrain. So he made OG Quasar, he made Blazar, he made Cipher, he made Shooting Majestic, and he made the new guy, Cosmic Quasar.
He just left, bro. He just left. That's crazy. Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it.
I don't know if we're gonna get any more card reveals today. Tonight doesn't look like it.
2250.
Well, that's not bad. Never mind, it's bad.
What is this?
Both your hand traps do nothing into this deck.
You sure?
Go on, see if they have Bone Party.
So
Go -1, I dare you. If he has Memento Fusion or Bone Party, literally Valor is a dead card.
I'll just ogre this. Fuck.
Yeah, they're playing that.
And that's Vela the horse, no?
If he doesn't have Bone Party already. If he has Bone Party, you might as well scoop.
Valor from my hand to the grave and play its ability. Now until this turn's end phase, the ability of one monster on your field is negated.
Fuck!
That's just as good. That's why Memento is such a strong deck right now, because the Fusion and Bone Party basically just ignore anything targeting. So stuff like Valor's Imperms are really bad.
That's Jack Atlas's theme song.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, this is near unwinnable now.
I just want to see where this goes. I haven't really like played against this matchup.
It's one of those decks that are also really hard to pilot, so...
Bone Party. Because I'm just trying to think if all this sequencing is doesn't matter, if all I have to do is wait for towards the end. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see if like stopping them like somewhere around here.
So the regular end board is going to be the Fusion, which is like a Sorcerer Blackout on legs. the trap with the other Memento main deck name, which is basically 5 monster negates. And then you have there's like a witch that I think is like a snatch steal.
Oh, this is the pop. I remember this one. This one pops. I know this one for sure. This is like the big old dude. Okay. Okay, well. Let me think here. If I go for this. Go for this. I think.
Can the fusion pop any card?
Yeah.
Doesn't the field spell have protection from destruction?
No, it's only about I control okay, so I baited that. Fucking an evenly right now would be so amazing right now. Evenly match, just fucking don't have to read every single card. Just fucking evenly match him. And just okay, I gotta read. Save me some time. Okay, well let's try this. Fuck. All right. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not sure what the hell's going on right now. All I know is he's summoning, discarding. Fuck. Okay, it's over. What the fuck, bro? Okay, so what the hell? I'm assuming Retaliate and C will be good against him, right? I'm assuming.
It's pretty solid. Valor Imperms are like really bad.
Yeah, what about Cosmics? Because what else would I put?
You can do it!
It's fine.
Cosmics aren't phenomenal.
Okay, I'll just leave it as is. That's fine. Should be fine. Oh shit. Oh fuck! Look at this hand. This hand's insane. Okay. Hell no! Get fucked. Okay, so this is a Mean Speeder. Assuming he doesn't have Ash.
But to what avail?
What does he have, bro? Is just everything? Well, let's try to do it. Oh, I can add a fucking ant. That's hilarious. Hopefully Ash is that. Never mind. I freaking added the ant, bro. What the fuck? That's so funny. Oh my god. Okay. That's fine.
Hey,
That's
discard fodder, I guess.
Yeah,
Oh.
discard fodder. Search in the ant, bro. That's so funny. Does he have any reactive effects in hand that he can use?
In Archetype, I don't think so.
Because there's a prompt there.
I mean, it could have like an imperm still.
Maybe. Where is it?
Stardust Dragon, let's rev it up.
Let's go, buddy.
Let's rev it up.
All right. Yep. Let's do it.
Now with the power of Summon Speeder.
So I want to draw. Please interact here. Please interact here. That'd be crazy. It might be Dominus. No, is it Dominus Purge? No. I mean, Impulse, I mean? 1, 2, 3. What does he have here? I think I just have to hand loop him for 2, no?
Memento is one of those weird decks where they do kind of need several cards to function because their 1 cards are quite weak.
Yeah.
Except I actually think if he hard opens Horse, then that's like kind of GG's. Because Horse is like his best 1 card starter.
I'm just thinking of how do I freaking even get to an 8 though? Because I drew my rev. Well, I feel like I have to do it this way. Going into Camille, see what I get there. I don't play Crystal. That's where it's kind of like, oh shit. I could go for. Can it play around a Supernova?
Bone Party does.
How?
Because they use the material before you banish everything. Or, you know, Supernova actually, because Supernova would be on res, so that means he can't use the Thunder. He actually can't use the Thunder Dragon fusion to do anything.
Oh my god, I'm running out of time.
Depends what his hand is.
Well, I can make this. Veiler. He had a Veiler. Fucking hell. I am cooked. I am so cooked. Fucking hell, I am so cooked. Yeah. I need to fix the climbing. This doesn't work. Yeah, I was missing. Fucking hell. I'm missing a. Oh no. Towards the end, we're doing so good, and then now the freaking internet's starting to lag now.